Yo, legends! Welcome back to the channel where the anime dreams never stop. Today, we're continuing the hype with What If Deku Had the Sharingan. Part 3. Things are getting even more intense, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Big shout out to the one and only Mr. Author 18 for crafting this masterpiece. Be sure to support them because their work is fire. Let's smash a like goal of 100 likes to unlock the next part. Drop your theories in the comments, hit subscribe to join the Legend Squad, and let's dive into the action. Chapter 11, Isuku versus the Nomus. Isuku felt a little pain in his hand, the same one he used to punch Shigaraki. I lost control and went to 15% for a second there, but if I hadn't done that, he would have probably hurt Momo. Isuku then looked and noticed that the two huge villains were going towards their unconscious master. This is our chance. He looked at his panicked friends. They were too terrified to even move. Think Isuku. Think, what should I do now? What would All Might do? He said in his head, but quickly got his answer. Isuku stood tall in front of his classmates, shielding them. Everything is fine now. Why? Because I'm here, Isuku said with a smile, trying his best to imitate his mentor. This immediately succeeded in calming down his friends and reassuring them that everything was going to be all right. Everyone, let's go save Aizawa-sensei and Vlad-sensei and get out of here, Isuku shouted as his eyes were burning with determination. His intimidating Sharingan was doing an excellent job showing his conviction and sheer will, as well as freeze Kurogiri in his place, who was already panicking as he had no idea what to do now. However, they didn't know that the battle had just started a few minutes earlier. Shoji, is everyone here? Can you check? Tenya asked as Shoji was using his tracking skills to find his classmates. Everyone's scattered, but they're all in this building, Shoji replied, after checking for his peers' whereabouts by creating multiple eyes and ears. Ida, 13, called her student. Yes, I entrust this duty to you. Run to the school and tell them about what is happening here. The alarms are not sounding, and our phones don't have signal. The alarm system is based on infrared rays. Even though Eraserhead is erasing people's quirks left and right, they are still not working, which means they must have someone with an interference quirk who used it right when they arrived. It would be faster for you to run than for us to find that person, 13 said as she thought that this was the best course of action. But it would be a disgrace as a hero to leave everyone behind. Tenya tried to protest, but was cut off. We're not heroes yet, we're still students, Itsuka said out of nowhere, grabbing Tenya's attention. Huh? Tenya questioned. This is the only way to save everyone. I understand your feelings, but you're the only one who's fast enough to call the pros, Itsuka said as she was slightly shaking. She was afraid and sick worried about Izuku and Ojiro. However, she knew that she needed to be strong now and do her responsibilities as both class representative and hero in training. She knew that this was their one and only chance to save Izuku and Ojiro, as well as her classmates. She then went in front of Kurogiri and was followed by the likes of Shiro and Sato, who were then followed by the other present students after they managed to encourage each other. Itsuka had to be rational about their situation, and right now she fully understood that the only way to save everyone is to create an opening for Tenya to escape and call for backup. Use your quirk in order to save others, 13 exclaimed as she too got ready to fight Kurogiri. She wasn't going to let any of her students get hurt after all. Even if you have no other choice, are there really idiots who talk about their plans in front of the enemy? Kurogiri mocked them as he dashed towards them. We did it because it doesn't matter if we're found out, 13 replied as she activated her quirk, and Kurogiri began to get sucked in the black hole.
Central Plaza.
Multiple bodies laid across the floor as Aizawa and Vlad kept on dealing with all of the minions that stood in their way. After tying up two people with his scarf and knocking them out, Aizawa looked up to see Tamura Shigaraki charging straight for him with his right hand. 23 seconds, Shigaraki said as he ran towards Aizawa. Final boss, Aizawa said as he threw his long scarf towards him in an attempt to immobilize him. 24 seconds, 20 seconds, 17 seconds. Aizawa attempted to elbow Shigaraki in the chest, but was blocked at the last second as Shigaraki held Aizawa's elbow in a tight grip. Damn! Aizawa cursed as he realized his attack was stopped. It's hard to see because you keep moving around, But there's an instant where your hair falls. Shigaraki began as Aizawa widened his eyes. They were red and dry due to using his quirk too much. That's when you have deactivated your quirk, and the space in between has gotten shorter and shorter. Don't push yourself, Eraserhead. Tamura finished as the skin of Aizawa's elbow tore apart, revealing gory red blood bone as cracks appeared throughout the skin of his right arm. Aizawa jumped away from Shigaraki as he felt the pain in his right elbow. My elbow's crumbling. The fodder villains took this as an opportunity to get the jump on Aizawa. But luckily, the pro hero dodged all of their attacks. His breathing was heavy as the fatigue of fighting a big group for a long period of time finally took its toll on him. That quirk isn't suited for fighting long fights against a large group, is it? Isn't this too different from your usual job? What you're good at is a short fight after a surprise attack, right? Even so, you jumped right in to fight us from the front. Was that to put your students at ease? Shigaraki exclaimed as he taunted Aizawa, who was able to take care of the other villains who tried to ambush him even with one arm. Aizawa! Vlad King shouted as he charged towards his fellow teacher, but was blocked by the green monster. You're so cool. You're so cool. By the way, heroes, I'm not the final boss, Shigaraki said with a hint of malice in his voice, proved by the evil smile on his face. Aizawa gasped as he turned his head to see the huge black-colored villain with an exposed brain right behind. He moved so fast that Aizawa never even heard him make a sound. Those two are Nomus, and they're the ones you really need to worry about, not me, Shigaraki said as the black Nomu brought his claws down towards Aizawa. He tried to erase the black Nomu's quirk, but it didn't seem to have any effect as the black Nomu still brought his hand down and pushed Aizawa to the ground and smashed his head. He broke Aizawa's arm, who shrieked in pain. You can erase quirks. That's wonderful, but it's nothing impressive in the face of overwhelming power. You might as well be quirkless. Shigaraki mocked him with a vicious smile. USJ entrance, black hole which sucks up everything and turns it all to dust. I see. That is an astounding quirk. However, 13, you are a hero who works to rescue people from disasters. As expected, your battle experience is less than half of that of a normal hero, Kurogiri pointed out while being sucked in the black hole. Unfortunately for 13, the mist villain outsmarted her and opened a portal right behind her. And so, her black hole began to suck her back instead. A warp gate, 13 shouted in distress. She knew that Kurogiri had won as her hero costume began to crumble, due to her quirk's backfire. You turned yourself into dust, Kurogiri said as 13 finally deactivated her quirk, but not before taking a lot of damage, as well as sustaining serious injuries. He got me, 13 murmured before she collapsed on the floor. Sensei, Mina led. The sight of her teacher made her panic. Ida, run. Hurry, Monoma shouted. He was desperate now that the situation was only getting worse. They had to give it their all right here and right now. Ida activated his engines and began to run to the exit. It was the only thing he could do now to help his friends and teacher. Damn it, he shouted as he ran, ashamed and frustrated by his weakness. One of the children who was not scattered. We are only waiting for All Might. If the other teachers are called here, it will be hard for us, Kurogiri thought as he opened a warp gate in front of Tenya to stop him. Everyone gasped in shock as it seemed like Tenya was going to fall right through it. Their one and last hope was about to be taken away. Everyone was entrusted to me. I will, Tenya thought in distress as he was only a second away from being teleported away. Luckily though, Shurhei Kurwaro, a student from Class 1B, jumped into action as he entered Kurogiri's body and took control over it. Name, Shihei Kuroro. Quirk, black. His quirk allows him to merge his body into anything that is dark in color, whether naturally dark or dark via external circumstances, such as shadows. Ida, hurry. It's my first time doing this, and I don't know how much longer I can hold him, Shurhei shouted as he closed the warp gate before Tenya could get sucked in. Tenya started to run again as fast as he can. He safely got to the door and tried to open it, but Kurogiri quickly regained control of his body again and Shurhei was forced out of his body, unconscious. I won't let you, Kurogiri shouted, but luckily Itsuka enlarged her hands and caught the metal piece hanging in Kurogiri's body. Name, Itsuka Kendo. Quirk, Big Fist. Her quirk grants her the ability to enlarge both of her hands to a gigantic size. With the increased size comes enhanced striking power and gripping capabilities. This metal thing must be your weakness because in reality you have a physical body. Am I right? Itsuka questioned with a smirk, having figured out Kurogiri's weakness. Achiko saw a chance and ran before activating her quirk on the metal piece. Shortly after, Kurogiri began to helplessly float in the air. Nice assist, Uraraka. Isuka praised Achiko. Oh no, my body! Kurogiri yelled in distress. This last attack gave Tenya enough time to run away. I had to buy enough time for Ida to escape. Achiko replied with a smile as Tenya finally opened the USJ front gates. Engine boost! Ida shouted as he exited the USJ, ran to the school building to get help. He's gonna call for support. It's game over, Kurogiri thought as he decided to go back to Tamura.
Central Plaza.
Meanwhile, Vlad King was now facing the green Nomu. Get out of my way! Vlad King shouted as he tried to punch the green Nomu with a blood-hardened fist. However, the green Nomu was able to easily catch his fist. That's not a problem, Vlad King said with a hint of confidence. His blood then shot from his hand and started to engulf the Nomu's arms and restrain him. Vlad King smiled as he thought that he managed to take out the Nomu, but felt a sudden pain in his hand. He stepped back and pulled back his hand. He looked at it and found it injured, covered in cuts and blood. How's this possible? Vlad King questioned. He looked at the restrained Nomu, but the hardened blood was immediately shattered, and what he saw shocked him. He saw sharp bones coming out of the Nomu's arms. Seeing Vlad's shocked expression, Shigaraki began to laugh like a psychopath. You know, Vlad, I wanted to test this Nomu specifically against you. I wanted to see how your blood control will fare against his bones control. So please, make it entertaining as long as you can. Shigaraki sinisterly said, something's wrong. A quirk like that one shouldn't be strong at all. In fact, it should hurt him when his bones pierce his muscles and skin like that. Also, he should have a limit to how many bones he could use, just like my blood. But then why is their leader so confident in his abilities? Suddenly, the Nomu pointed his fingers towards Vlad and started to shoot his sharp, long claws at him. Vlad made a blood shield, but unfortunately for him, the sharp claws shattered the shield and pierced his body.
TSK. Vlad.
I am sure you didn't slack off in your science class, but let me tell you something. Shigaraki began with a mocking tone. When I said that Green Nomu can control his bones, I meant every bone in his body. He can also shape it and mold it however he likes. So please show me your best hero. My Nomu here is really eager to fight. Tamura taunted the blood hero, proud by his Nomu's work. Vlad King stood up and charged at the Nomu, whose claws came out of his knuckles this time. Vlad King hardened his fists with his blood and broke the Nomu's claws, only for them to quickly regenerate and almost pierce his side. Luckily for Vlad, he managed to evade the attack just in time, before uppercutting the Nomu. However, the Nomu did manage to scratch his side and tear his hero costume. Despite his injuries and the blood loss, Vlad tried to restrain the Nomu by shooting his blood and hardening it to effectively immobilize the Nomu, but the Nomu managed to break free with his brute strength and claws. It also seems like the claws became much sharper, longer, and stronger than before. It's no use, Vlad. Each time you break his bones, they'll grow stronger. Tamura pointed out, I have to admit, he's strong, but can he get past this? Vlad decided to harden his upper body with his blood, something that usually put a strain on him, but there was no other choice. He charged at the Nomu again and dodged his claws before he caught his arm and flipped him over, which was an incredible feat, considering the monster's weight. Having no intention to stop here, Vlad hardened his leg with his blood and tried to land a devastating kick to the Nomu's chest. However, to his surprise, the Nomu's thoracic cage bones came out and protected him like a shield. Vlad was shell-shocked to see that the bones didn't even break under his attack. Af! The Nomu impaled Vlad's thighs with 2 rods of bones that came out of his wings, causing him to shriek in pain. The Nomu then stood up again in front of Vlad and caught him in a monster hug, before Vlad felt his body being pierced everywhere by sharp bones. How? How is he able to use his bones like this? Taking them out of his body like they were disposable, and even when I broke them, he never felt any pain. Vlad said as he fell on the ground, with a puddle of his blood forming underneath him. You see, Vlad, bones control isn't the only quirk Green Nomu has. He also has bones regeneration and bones hardening. Combine those with his bones control and you get the perfect combination. Unlike you, who can only fight short battles so that you don't lose a lot of blood, Nomu can fight endless battles. Tamura Shigaraki said before giving the fallen hero one last malicious laugh. You want? Get away, the hero passed out. Vlad! Vlad! Aizawa shouted, concerned about Vlad's condition. Aizawa's eyes turned red as he activated his quirk again and stared straight at Black Nomu, attempting to erase his quirk again. But just like last time, Black Nomu was completely unaffected and snapped Aizawa's other arm as he grunted in pain. It's like he's breaking a stick. I'm sure I erased his quirk. That means he is just that powerful naturally. He's as strong as All Might. Aizawa said in his mind as Black Nomu picked his head up and smashed into the ground, creating cracks in the concrete and inflicting even more damage as the battle was completely one-sided. Shortly after, he dislocated Aizawa's broken arm, causing him to yell out in pain. Back to the present. Everyone, let's go save Aizawa-sensei and Vlad-sensei and get out of here, Izuku shouted as his eyes were burning with determination. His intimidating Sharingan was doing an excellent job showing his conviction and sheer will, as well as freeze Kurogiri in his place, who was already panicking as he had no idea what to do now. Yes, Izuku's friends responded with a hint of relief, now that the situation was turning in their favor. Ojiro grabbed Vlad-sensei, Aways you grab Aizawa-sensei, Momo and Ibara go with them to the entrance, regroup with the others, Izuku said with a hint of authority. But what about you, Midoriya? Momo asked, concerned about her classmate. We can't leave you behind, man. Aways added, I'll slow down the mist villain. Don't worry, I know his weakness and I'll catch up to you in no time. I got you in this mess in the first place, so it's only right for me to stay. Ojiro looked at Izuku for a moment. You better come back. I still have a score to settle with you. I promise we'll have our rematch, Ojiro. Now go, Izuku said before giving him a thumbs up. Ojiro and Aways carried their teachers and began to run with Ibara to the entrance. Momo was about to do so, but Izuku stopped her. Yaoyorozu, I need you to create a sword, a Japanese-style sword, Izuku requested. Momo had an uneasy look, still hesitant about leaving Izuku alone. But if this is how she can help him, then so be it. She created the sword and handed it to him. Thank you, now go. Momo then followed the other three students. Izuku then turned to face Kurogiri. He wasn't going to let the mist villain go anywhere near his friends. I see you want to play hero, huh? Kurogiri mocked the Sharingan user, clearly underestimating him. Much more than you want to play villain. Look around you, this game is over. The pros are coming, your leader is down. Give up now, it will be better if you retreat. Indeed, you're right. However, my boss here has a short temper, and I'm sure he will be more than happy if I at least manage to capture the one who messed up his fun. Come at me and try your luck then, Izuku replied, taunting the villain. Kurogiri charged at Izuku, thinking that Izuku was just your normal cocky and arrogant child with a strong physical enhancement quirk. But unfortunately for him, he was wrong as Izuku immediately jumped and grabbed the metal piece hanging in his body. He held him down, much to the villain's surprise, who didn't expect Izuku to know about his weakness. After all, he was doing a much better job hiding it this time. What? How? Kurogiri questioned in confusion. His weakness was exploited once again. My eyes here see through everything. From the moment you appeared in front of us at the entrance, I saw that metal piece you were hiding within your mist. Izuku replied. I see. I underestimated your quirk and judgment. Kurogiri replied as he acknowledged Izuku's skills. I also know that the key to kill All Might are these two. Am I right? Indeed, but what will you do about them? You can't possibly defeat them. Your teachers tried and are barely alive now. I don't need to. I already know that they were part of an experiment and that they are programmed to protect your boss here if he's unconscious. So, as long as I am holding you here and not attacking him, I should be fine. Give up now, you lost villains. Izuku said and intimidated the villain with his Sharingan to strike fear in him. So young and naive, look over there. Izuku looked at Shigaraki and saw him getting up. What, the 15% should have been enough for him to sleep the whole day or something. This is not good, the pros should arrive in a few minutes, but someone should hold them until then. Izuku thought. It seems like it was too early to celebrate. Shigaraki began scratching his neck before saying, "You moved well back then. Your smash, are you a follower of All Might's?" He questioned in a very angry tone. "Yes. I'm going to become the greatest hero, just like him." Izuku replied with a hint of defiance. "Well, I was planning on killing you either way. But now, I'll make sure to make it as painful as possible." Tamura replied as he was now pissed. After all, he hated All Might's very existence. Green Nomu, kill him. The green Nomu charged at Izuku with his claws, trying to pierce him in his chest. But Izuku dodged the attack and delivered an uppercut to the villain's chin. The Nomu fell on his back and Izuku stepped on his claws, breaking his bones, only for them to regenerate again. I see. So, Bones Control and Bones Regeneration are his quirks. Izuku pointed out. He didn't exactly know what his quirks were per se, but he knew that the monster had multiple quirks. "Oh, we have a perceptive student here, call me impressed. But even if you know about his quirks, what are you going to do about it, brat?" Tamura sarcastically mocked Izuku. "Well, I'll break his bones until he can no longer regenerate them," Izuku replied. He was sure that there must be some kind of limit to his bones regeneration quirk. The green Nomu stood up and started to shoot his long, sharp claws from his fingers, but Izuku was able to dodge them easily and deflect some of them with his sword, thanks to the Sharingan. "I see those eyes of his," Kurogiri murmured as he started to understand what Izuku meant by his eyes could see everything. "What's wrong, Kurogiri?" Shigaraki asked. "I think that the boy may have two quirks or maybe a combined one. At first glance, you can see that he has a physical enhancement quirk, but then how is he predicting the Nomu's attacks? How did he discover my weakness immediately? His eyes are not normal," Kurogiri deduced. "I can see that his eyes are not normal, but having multiple quirk. Is that even possible? He's not a Nomu, you know." Tamura replied, curious about Izuku's eyes. As far as he knew, only his master had multiple quirks. The green Nomu then started to grow sharp bones from his elbows and knees now, and went straight for Izuku. "Lowest round kick," Izuku shouted as he ducked under the sharp bone coming from the Nomu's elbow. And as the Nomu tripped off his feet, Izuku prepared his next attack. Texas Smash. Izuku hit the Nomu right in his guts and sent him flying away. TSK, just before I delivered that smash, he used his thoracic cage's bones to block my attack. I managed to break his bones, but my punch didn't do as much damage as I wanted to, Izuku said in his mind. However, just then, a bony rod came out of the Nomu's wing and shot at Izuku. Izuku was taken aback by surprise as he didn't expect the Nomu to recover that quickly. Luckily for him, he managed to cut it in half with his sword at the last second. That's either some excellent reflexes he got there or excellent perception. I don't know exactly which one it is, but I'm leaning towards the latter, Kurogiri thought as he carefully observed Izuku. Roar! The green Nomu let out a mighty roar as it stood up again. He was angry at Izuku and began to pull out his vertebral column from his spine. Izuku watched this whole process in disgust as he has never seen someone pull his spine like that. After fully pulling it out, the green Nomu began to swing it like a sword, ready for round 2. Izuku took his fighting stance and firmly held his sword. They stared at each other before Izuku charged at it. Sharp bone spikes shot at him from the Nomu's kneecaps, but Izuku deflected them all with his sword. Once he got close enough, both of them swung their swords and clashed with each other. Izuku noted that the bone was as hard as steel. Izuku and the Nomu then began to clash swords together at a high speed. Izuku tried to slash his chest, but the Nomu blocked his attack. The Nomu then tried to shoot bone spikes at Izuku again from his kneecaps, but Izuku had already perceived his attack with the Sharingan and jumped over the attack. That was close, Izuku said to himself. However, just then, the Nomu swung his sword as fast and strong as he can. Izuku tried to parry it with his own sword, but was sent flying away. Unfortunately for him, this wasn't the end as the Nomu began to shoot bone spikes from his fingers. Izuku tried to dodge the incoming attacks, but one of them managed to impale his shoulder before he fell on the ground with a loud thud. "Aha!" He yelled out in pain as blood dripped from his shoulder. It was painful, but not as painful as breaking one's bones. So he grabbed the bone spike and winced in pain as he pulled it out of his shoulder. He was panting but still standing. He had to continue fighting because he was currently the only capable of protecting his classmates right now. "Come on, Izuku. Kurogane-sensei trained you to be better than this." Sure, he didn't prepare you to fight a monster that uses its spine like a sword, but still, Izuku thought as he firmly gripped his sword. Shigaraki made an evil smirk. "It's no use, kid. There's nothing you can do to defeat a Nomu that was specifically made to kill your trash of a symbol of peace. Just give up and accept your death with grace." Hearing this, Izuku just scoffed. "Give up? Still, Izuku, with everything that happened to you, you ought to be proud of yourself. No matter how much life put you down, you stood up again, you never gave up." Izuku remembered his mother's words. Then, his memories shifted to another distant memory. Music. Naruto OST Strong and Strike. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I promise you that I'll never give up ever again." "What's so funny, kid?" Shigaraki asked with a hint of annoyance. "What's funny is that you think I'd ever give up. But I won't. I'll stall you until the pro heroes come and protect my friends. Because, too." Izuku began as the green lightning around him began to violently swirl around him, and the scent of ozone filled the air. His Sharingan began to spin too as it showed his conviction and determination. "I never give up and I never go back on my word because that's my hero way," Izuku shouted as he charged at the green Nomu once again. His charge alone created gusts of wind as he ran so fast towards the monster. Shigaraki and Kurogiri were taken aback by surprise as they were having a hard time tracking Izuku's speed. They didn't expect the Sharingan user to be this fast. The green Nomu tried to shoot bone spikes at him again from his knuckles and knees, but Izuku cut them all with his sword at an incredible rate and speed. After slashing the last one in two perfect halves and managing to get closer, the Nomu swung his sword at him, trying to cut him down. However, Izuku just threw his sword in the air over the Nomu and ducked under the attack as he slid between his legs. He then caught the sword and did a quick turnaround before he slashed his calves. "Ryurii!" The Nomu shrieked in pain. Seeing this, Shigaraki's and Kurogiri's eyes widened in shock. "Just who's this kid?" Kurogiri yelled in his mind. "I'm not done yet," Izuku shouted as he quickly followed with a devastating kick to the monster's spine, breaking it in the process before the Nomu was sent flying away. Izuku then jumped high in the air and threw his sword at the Nomu. His sword impaled his back and stopped him in his place as it was pinned to the ground. "Come, young Midoriya. This is your hero academia." Izuku remembered All Might's words. He's a UA student. This is his hero academia now, and he was going to protect it from the villains. "Remember this because I, Izuku Midoriya, am the hero who will become the next symbol of peace," Izuku yelled as he pulled back his fist. The pain in his shoulder hurt him as blood dripped from it, but he wasn't going to stop there. He was going to finish this. "Detroit Smaeas." Izuku brought his fist down and landed a solid punch right to the Nomu's face. The punch was powerful enough to create a crater in the ground as it came down with a loud boom. Shigaraki coughed as dust filled the area, but once it settled and cleared, he only saw Izuku standing and his Nomu in a bloody mess and helplessly lying on the floor. He focused on Izuku's eyes and looked at them and only saw a burning inferno in them. But what mostly irritated him is that they reminded him of All Might. Oi, this Nomu was made to kill All Might, not to get defeated by a mere kid," Tamura angrily shouted as he scratched his neck. Blood could be seen dripping from it. He was clearly furious and pissed off. "Tamura, it's best for us to leave now. That kid managed to defeat the Nomu and the pros will arrive any minute now." "I'll retrieve the Nomu," Kurogiri began but was interrupted. "No, I'm not leaving before I kill this brat. Look at him, he's only 15 but he defeated a Nomu, Kurogiri. A Nomu. If we let him go alive, he'll prove to be a bigger threat in the future. Shigaraki shouted at him. Kurogiri then watched as his young master charged at the Sharingan hero with his hands outstretched. Isuku quickly picked his sword before he dodged Shigaraki's hand. He didn't know what was his quirk, but seeing as Shigaraki ran with his hands outstretched like that, he knew that something bad would happen if the villain touches him. You brat. Shigaraki shouted as he tried to touch Isuku with his 5 fingers. As Isuku dodged Shigaraki's incoming hand once again, he noticed the sudden portal that was opened behind him by Kurogiri. Oh no! Isuku jumped back and kicked Shigaraki in his chin before he did a backflip over the portal and landed on his hands first before flipping and landing on his feet. Phew, that was close. Isuku let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He then quickly grabbed his sword and jumped towards Shigaraki before he stomped his chest, pushing him down on the floor and brought his sword right before his face. Surrender, it's over now, Isuku calmly said. Shigaraki then grabbed Izuku's sword and Isuku thought he was just trying to resist. However, he gasped in shock as his sword crumbled and turned into dust.
Name, Tamura Shigaraki.
Quirk. Decay. Tamura's quirk allows him to disintegrate whatever he touches with all 5 fingers. It will take effect whether the target is organic or not. The disintegration spreads quickly and will spread through the victim's whole body if they don't amputate the decaying body part. His quirk can even spread beyond what he's touching, allowing him to disintegrate large groups of enemies instantly. What's this? Izuku questioned. Izuku jumped back as he saw Shigaraki outstretching his hand towards him. He wasn't going to let him touch him. Aha! Izuku felt a sudden pain as 2 rods of bones pierced him through his back. He looked back and was surprised to see the green Nomu back again. This time he had bones coming out of his shoulders, elbows, knees, and knuckles. It seems like was getting serious now. You have to be kidding me. No matter how much I hit him, he gets up. It seems like he can only regenerate his bones since there's blood coming from his mouth, meaning that he's suffering internal damage, but still, I finally got you, kid. Izuku looked in horror at Shigaraki, whose hand was coming closer and closer. No, I can't die here. I can't die now. I have to escape, Izuku thought as his eyes widened in panic. He couldn't move because of the 2 rods. Izuku closed his eyes as Shigaraki's hand was only 1 centimeter away. Was he going to die now without even passing one for all? Was he going to fail All Might? Collapse zone. D. Bakugo shouted as he fired an explosion and took out 2 villains at the same time. Meanwhile, Kirishima, who had hardened his arms, managed to take out a villain too. Both of them panted as it looked like they took down a large group on their own. Is that all of them? They're so weak. Bakugo pointed out. All right, let's hurry up and go save the others. If we're here, then everyone else should be inside USJ too, Kirishima said as he was concerned about the safety of his classmates. Besides, because we ran off ahead, we slowed 13 down. If 13 had been able to suck up that fog, then this wouldn't have happened, Kirishima added in frustration as he was ashamed of himself. As men, we have to take responsibility for what we did. If you want to go, then go by yourself. I'm gonna kill that warp gate, Bakugo angrily said as he hated the fact that he couldn't defeat Kurogiri at that time. What? You're gonna act childish at a time like this? Besides, that guy's attacks are. Kirishima began with a hint of anger, thinking that going back to defeat Kurogiri was more important than saving the others for Bakugo. Shut up. That gate bastard is the enemy's in and out. I'm gonna cut off their gateway route for when the time comes. It's not like we don't have a way to fight the fog, Bakugo replied, having enough of Kirishima's rambling. At the same time, a villain with an invisibility quirk was trying to sneak up on him and jumped at him once he got close enough. Stop your chit-chatting. Since you've left your guard down, he began. But Bakugo caught him by his head and fired an explosion. The villain was clearly wrong about Bakugo lowering his guard. Anyway, if these small fries are the ones assigned to us, pretty much everyone will be fine, right? Bakugo added. That reaction time was amazing, Kirishima murmured to himself as he was amazed by Bakugo's skills. Anyway, were you always so calm and rational? He asked. I thought you were more like, die. I'm always calm and rational. You spiky-haired punk. Bakugo shot back. Oh yeah, that's more like it. Kirishima said. Humph. Then go if you want to. Bakugo said as he threw the villain away. Wait. Believing in our friends. That's really manly, Bakugo. I'll follow you. Kirishima said as he hardened his arms again. Izuku closed his eyes as Shigaraki's hand was only 1 centimeter away. However, just then, he heard a familiar voice, causing him to reopen his eyes. Get away from him! A white blur kicked Shigaraki, sending him flying away. Ojiro, what are you doing here? Izuku asked, surprised to see him here. I came because I was worried. I couldn't let you fight the main villains alone. So once the others took Vlad Sensei, I immediately came back, and I'm glad I did. He explained before taking a good look at Izuku. Midoriya, you're hurt. You look terrible. Ojiro shouted in distress. After all, Izuku had 2 rods coming out through his chest, and his shoulder was bleeding and he was covered in bruises. There's no time to worry, help me quickly. Izuku weakly replied. Ojiro then used both of his hands to break the rods one by one. After that, Izuku breathed in and pulled out the bony rods from his chest. Ag, don't worry, I'm fine. Izuku let out a grunt. He took a few heavy breaths to recover. See that big green guy over there? Yes, what about him? That guy has 4 quirks. He has wings, bone regeneration, bone control, and some kind of bone hardening, I think. Do you have any plans to defeat him? Ojiro asked. Yes, you see, we have to break his bones faster than he can regenerate them. He must have some sort of limit after all. Only problem is that we also need to attack him as fast as we can, or he'll hurt us with his bones. Be careful because he has long-range attacks too, so follow my lead because it's hard to get close. Izuku explained his plan as he stood up again. Right? Ojiro responded. More of these annoying kids are coming, but it doesn't matter now that my Nomu has gotten serious. They don't stand a chance. Tamura exclaimed with a hint of confidence. Nomu, kill them. Izuku started to run towards the green Nomu, followed by Ojiro. His movements were now sloppy because of his injuries, but he had to push himself harder. The Nomu started to shoot his bone spikes from his knees and fingers at them once again. To the right, Izuku said, as he and Ojiro dodged the incoming attacks. Now to the left. Now jump, Izuku instructed as both teens charged at the monster. However, just then, the Nomu began to focus his attacks on Ojiro and shoot more bone spikes from his chest now, using his thoracic cage. Ojiro froze in his place as he knew that there was no way he could dodge all of them. But Izuku quickly pushed him out of the way as he took some of the attack. He managed to dodge many of them, but some managed to graze him and Ojiro. Midoriya, Ojiro cried out. I'm okay. We have to keep G. Izuku was cut off as the Nomu delivered a powerful uppercut and sent him flying away. You bastard! How dare you? Ojiro shouted as he was enraged. He aimed a punch at the Nomu, but the monster evaded the attack with a sidestep and moved around Ojiro. The Nomu then tried to hit him with his knee and impale him with the sharp piece of bone coming out of it. Music. Naruto OST spin and burst. However, before he could, Izuku landed a devastating kick to his head as he gritted his teeth, certainly from the pain. Ojiro decided to follow Izuku's attack and landed a solid hit to the Nomu's side. Both of their attacks managed to push him back. Izuku then picked Ojiro and threw him towards the Nomu, who was still stunned from the last attack. Once he did though, he was smacked by Ojiro's tail. However, it didn't do much damage as he tried to catch Ojiro, but was hit by a sudden pain. It was Izuku, who had retrieved his old staff and impaled the Nomu's chest, causing the Nomu to shriek in pain. That's payback for earlier, Izuku said, but took the full brunt of a punch to the face and was knocked away. Ojiro tried to punch the Nomu, but he too was smacked away. Both teens quickly recovered, looked at each other and nodded as they began to run towards the Nomu again. Having enough, the Nomu flapped his wings and hovered above them as he began to shoot his sharp bone spikes again while the two boys ran side by side. They managed to evade each and every attack, however the numbers of spikes increased more. Seeing this, they both jumped and made a turn midair, placed their feet against each other and jumped, perfectly evading the attack. Each one of them then charged towards the Nomu from each side. After that, the Nomu did a quick 180 degrees turn as he fired bone spikes at the two of them. Luckily though, both teens managed to jump in the air towards the Nomu, who had to regenerate his bones to resupply his ammo. Izuku then did a front flip and delivered an axe kick to Nomu's back, while Ojiro also did a front flip, but hit him with his tail. Manchester Smash. Ojiro's special, White Dragon. The combined attack was too powerful that the Nomu kissed the concrete. The creature then tried to stand up again, but was hardly able to do so as he stammered. The two teens smirked at each other as they saw the Nomu's regeneration getting weaker. "You brats are really persistent. Green Nomu, what are you doing? Kill them," Tamura ordered the Nomu. Roahar. Once his master's orders registered in his head, he charged at them and tried to cut them down with the claws coming out of his knuckles. Izuku ducked and slid between the monster's legs, while Ojiro dodged by taking a step back. Seeing both of them preparing for an attack, the Nomu tried to use his thoracic cage to protect himself. "Now Ojiro, show him the power of youth just like Kendo Sensei taught us," Izuku shouted. "All right, let's go and show him the spirit of youth." Ojiro smirked. Double twin strike. Both of them yelled as Izuku hit him from the back and Ojiro from the front. The power of the double twin strike was strong enough to break the villain's thoracic cage. However, they were not done yet. Ojiro jumped and kicked the Nomu's head with a roundhouse kick, stunning him before Izuku pulled his fist back. Meanwhile, the students who were watching from the entrance were amazed by the coordination between the two teens and the effort they're putting despite being severely injured. Their teamwork was nothing short of amazing as they were making quick work of the same monster who defeated their teacher earlier. And now, they were witnessing the climax of this battle as Izuku was going to defeat that monster. "Get him, Izuku," Itsuka murmured as she hoped that the Sharingan user would finally defeat that monster. "Deku," Ochako murmured too, worried about Izuku but hoping that he would win. "Do it, Midoriya. Show him what you're made of. Finish him," the students at the entrance shouted as they cheered for Izuku. "They're counting on me. They're all counting on me. I can't fail them or else I won't be able to call myself a hero," Izuku thought as he mustered all of his strength. "Go beyond, plus ultra," everyone shouted, resonating deep within him. The past wills and power of one for all echoed in his body, granting even more power within him before he clenched his fist. "Texas Mareas," Izuku cried at the top of his lungs as blood came out of his injured shoulder and chest. But it didn't matter because he had everyone's support and he was going to defeat that Nomu no matter what. His fist hit the Nomu and sent him flying away with an explosive power. Having no way to defend himself, the Nomu suffered severe internal damage, which was evident by the blood that came out of his mouth. He then hit the ground with a loud thud and laid there. Silence filled the USJ for a moment. Everyone was anxious to know what happened, including Shigaraki and Kurogiri, who were too shocked to see their Nomu defeated. Izuku and Ojiro were taking heavy breaths as they were tired. However, they had to make sure that they have managed to defeat the Nomu. Both teens stood above the knocked-down Nomu, unable to determine if they got him or not. "Did we get him?" Ojiro asked. "Yeah, I think so." However, Izuku panicked as he noticed the bones all over the Nomu's body coming out again. "Ojiro, jump!" Izuku shouted in distress before he and Ojiro jumped back. At that moment, bone spikes shot out from all over his body at a great speed. Both teens tried to dodge them, but some of them hit them as there was too many. But thanks to his Sharingan, Izuku managed to catch one of the bone spikes. He pulled his arm back midair and threw it at the monster with all of his strength. "Ryithii!" The monster cried out as the bone spike impaled his throat. The creature began to make sudden moves as it struggled to breathe, but it eventually stopped moving at all. "Midoriya, yes Ojiro, we did it. This time we won," Izuku said with a smile. That last attack was probably a desperate one to try to kill us. One that would have left him vulnerable since he molded all of his body's bones into spikes. It would have taken him some time to regenerate, but unfortunately for our young heroes, they had forgotten about the other Nomu in their moment of victory. The black Nomu appeared in a flash and grabbed the two of them before smashing them into the ground, creating cracks in the concrete. Shigaraki then approached the other Nomu and pulled out the bone spike out his throat and turned it to dust. Shortly after, the green Nomu was breathing again. No way! We were so close, Izuku said in frustration. But we did our best. Why? Why wasn't it enough? How did we fail? Ojiro replied. He too was frustrated at his own weakness. Well, I have to say I am impressed. You two are definitely excellent students. But playtime is over now. What you did to my Nomu really angered me, and I'm not in a good mood today to be merciful, Shigaraki angrily said. He then moved closer towards Izuku and grinned. If you think you've won, then you're dead wrong. All Might will be here in any second now, and he will kick your ass. Izuku retaliated as he moved his head to look at Shigaraki despite the Nomu's grip. You, the All Might wannabe, you especially irritate me. Thinking you can save everyone like him. Nomu, torture him, Tamura angrily shouted as he was pissed off by Izuku. He hated him now as much as All Might. The scene he saw back then when everyone counted on him to defeat the Nomu and save them made him want to throw up. Hearing his master's orders, the Nomu lifted Ojiro with one hand before he brought his foot down and stomped Izuku, crushing his ribs. Aha! Izuku screamed loudly as he felt his ribs easily breaking like a stick. He was in a whole new world of pain. Izuku! Deku! Both Itsuka and Ochako shouted in distress, worried about the Sharingan user. Seeing this, the students at the entrance began to panic. They were terrified and they were losing hope. What was taking the pros so long to get here? Sato and Shoji prepared to enter the battle. They weren't going to let their classmate carry their burden anymore. However, they were stopped by someone. Aha! Izuku was yelling again, until Shigaraki raised his hand for the Nomu to stop. So, Midoriya, do you still want to be a hero or will you give up? He taunted. Midoriya, tell him no. Please tell him no. Ojiro pleaded. He couldn't bear to see his friends suffer like that anymore. Two will be hero and I'll make sure to kick your ass before putting you in jail, Izuku replied. His breaths were getting heavier and blood was coming out of his nose. He could pass out at any moment now. Shigaraki's eyes widened as he angrily glared at Izuku. You insolent brat. I'll show you that you're no hero, he angrily shouted before he grabbed Ojiro's tail and activated his decay. Ojiro! No! Izuku shouted as his friend yelled out in pain. His tail's skin and muscles were crumbling, and in a few moments, he would meet his demise as his whole body will turn to dust. Izuku raised his injured arm and charged 100% of one for all in his finger. He was going to kill this bastard once and for all. He won't let Ojiro die because of him. One for all, 100%. Del. Izuku stopped as he noticed Shigaraki's decay not working anymore. Suddenly just stopped. Erase your head. Ruining my fun again, he said as he looked behind him where he saw Aizawa. He was standing thanks to both Achiko and Itsuka helping him. His eyes were red, and his hair was floating, which meant that his quirk was activated. Green Nomu, Black Nomu, let's go kill them before the heroes come. Kurogiri, opened the portal, we're going home soon, Tamura said as he and the Nomus went to kill the students and teachers. The green Nomu was fully healed too. No, I can't let them kill them. I have to do something, but I'm very weak. I might pass out in any moment now. Some successor I turned out to be. Can't even protect those who are close to me, Izuku thought as he was ashamed of himself. But just then, he got an idea. Ojiro, can you stand? Izuku asked in a very weak voice. I think I can manage, but I'm too tired to fight anymore and I am terribly wounded. What about you? He weakly replied. I have one last special attack. I'm sure I can take out the leader of the villains with it. If I take him out, the Nomus will automatically stop, since they seem to only obey him. Tell me your plan, Midoriya. Tamura was now approaching Aizawa and the girls. First, I'll make you watch my Nomus kill your precious students, and then I will kill you myself, Eraser. Shigaraki. Tamura looked behind him and saw Izuku flying really fast towards him. What the? A few seconds earlier, I want you to throw me with everything you've got towards Shigaraki, Izuku said, completely serious about it. You want me throw you with everything I got towards the leader? Ojiro questioned, having second thoughts about this already. Yes, I'll use my strongest attack and take him out. Can you do it? I can't. I don't have enough strength to do it. I won't be able to throw you that far. What the fuck happened to you, Deku? Bakugo asked. He was so shocked to see Izuku in this terrible state. Midoriya, you're hurt so badly. You need help, Kirishima added. Kaken. Izuku was surprised to see Bakugo here. I got defeated by the villains. However, I have one last special move to take them out. I know you might hate this, but can you help? Izuku began, but was interrupted by Bakugo himself. Music. The Raising Fighting Spirit Naruto theme. I will. Kaken. I know that you want to defeat the villains by yourself to prove your weight. You will? Izuku asked in shock. He couldn't believe that Bakugo just accepted to team up with him to defeat the villains. Yes. Now explain your plan before I change my mind. He's willing to cooperate with me if it means taking down the villains to save the others. I guess All Might was right. Kaken really is changing. Izuku then explained his full plan to Bakugo before the latter picked him up. Don't get me wrong, Deku. I just want to see your strongest attack, nothing else. That and the fact that my target is the warp gate. I won't let these fucking villains get away so easily, Bakugo said, while in reality, he wanted to help Izuku take care of the villains and save everyone before anyone else gets hurt. Right? Thank you, Kaken. Don't thank me, you piece of shit. Just die, he yelled as he used his strongest explosion to throw Izuku as far as he can. Shigaraki, Izuku yelled as he was flying so fast towards the villain. What the? That annoying brat. Tamura thought, this is it. This is the attack that Mori-sensei helped me create, my ultimate attack. And now is the right time to use it, Izuku said in his mind as he got closer to Shigaraki. One for all 100%. Green Dragon Ultra Kick, Izuku shouted as he used the full power of One for All in his leg. As he did, a green aura formed into a green dragon who gave a mighty roar and engulfed his leg. Izuku then pulled back his leg before he kicked his target. Once the devastating kick made contact, it caused massive shockwaves through the entire USJ and broke every single window in the facility. The whole USJ was shaking like there was an earthquake, and the students who were close to the attack were knocked off their feet. Chapter 12. Izuku and All Might. Shigaraki, Izuku yelled as he was flying so fast towards the villain. What the? That annoying brat. Tamura thought, this is it. This is the attack that Mori-sensei helped me create, my ultimate attack. And now is the right time to use it, Izuku said in his mind as he got closer to the Shigaraki. One for all 100%. Green Dragon Ultra Kick, Izuku shouted as he used the full power of One for All in his leg. As he did, a green aura formed into a green dragon who gave a mighty roar and engulfed his leg. Izuku then pulled back his leg before he kicked his target. Once the devastating kick made contact, it caused massive shockwaves through the entire USJ and broke every single window in the facility. The whole USJ was shaking like there was an earthquake, and the students who were close to the attack were knocked off their feet. What is this incredible power? Itsuka shouted as she tried to block the shockwaves with her hand, but was still getting pushed back. She and Achiko had to do their best to shield Aizawa-sensei. Itsuka was awestruck at Izuku's incredible power. She never imagined that he was this strong. Idiot, he must have broken his bones, Aizawa said as he shielded his eyes. He couldn't even open them. So much power, Sato said as he also had trouble staying on his feet, along with the students who were at the main entrance. Needless to say, everyone felt Izuku's immense power. Heck, even the scattered students, the villains, and Kurogiri did. The gusts of winds managed to push the mist villain back, which made him unable to open a portal back to their hideout. Bakugo was left utterly speechless by Izuku's attack and the destruction it caused. Did Deku just kill the guy? He thought as his eyes were wide open from the shock. He's so manly. Kirishima cheered for the Sharingan user. Did he get him? Ojiro asked, hoping that his friend finally defeated the villains. I don't know. I can't see from the dust, Kirishima replied, trying to take a good look at the situation. The whole USJ was silent, villains and heroes. Everyone was just waiting for the dust to clear so that they could see the conclusion of the epic battle. Suddenly, Izuku's shadow became more visible, and it seems like he has managed to hit a target. But it wasn't the target everyone expected. As the dust settled, everybody saw Isuku. His leg was broken, bruised and purplish, but it had managed to break the green Nomu's neck and jaw completely. The green monster managed to save his master at the cost of his own life. They both fell on the ground. One was dead while the other was plain exhausted and incapacitated. Izuku's Sharingan faded as he has reached his time limit, followed by him deactivating his full cowl too. At least this will make things easier for All Might, Izuku weakly muttered. His vision was becoming blurry as he was about to pass out in any second now. Meanwhile, everyone was just trying to process what just happened as they were still amazed by Izuku's ultimate attack. After all, he managed to defeat one of those deadly beasts. The same one who took out Vlad King. You little brat. How? How were you able to kill my Nomu? After his bones were broken so many times, he should have been able to withstand a hit even from All Might. His bone regeneration quirk has no limits, so how? You little pest. How were you able to kill him? Shigaraki began his temper tantrum. I told you I would break his bones until he could no longer regenerate them. All I had to do was deal a blow strong enough to kill him instantly. Shattering his bones first before landing the blow was a strategy. But it took too much time and at the end it failed. So I had to improvise and deal a powerful blow to snap his neck. That's his weakness. A fatal blow to a weak point, just like when the sharp bone spike impaled his throat. Izuku weakly said with a faint smile. He was happy that he made things easier for All Might now. Damn it! My Nomu was defeated by a little kid. Shigaraki angrily shouted. I already know that he's no longer a human. So I'm glad I was able to save his poor soul that is being tormented by you. He was my target in the first place as I knew he was going to protect you. That and the fact that a hero shouldn't kill a villain, so I was never going to kill you in the first place. Izuku murmured weakly. Shigaraki then began to violently scratch his neck until he regained his composure. You know, brat, the green Nomu was just a prototype. In fact, he wasn't really the ace up my sleeve to kill All Might. It's the black one over here. But you piss me off so much like that stupid symbol of peace. And the fact that you managed to defeat a Nomu makes you a potential threat in the future. Black Nomu, kill him. The black Nomu immediately grabbed Izuku and started to smash his head into the ground. He then started to punch him repeatedly, but Izuku had already lost his consciousness. His ribs and leg were broken. His face was all covered in blood and his nose was broken as well. Not to mention, he lost too much blood from the injuries he got in his shoulder and chest earlier. DKU. Damn it! Bakugo yelled as he tried to go save Izuku, but his path was blocked by Kurogiri. I'm afraid I can't let you pass, Kurogiri exclaimed as he blocked Bakugo, Kirishima, and Ojiro's path. Fucking warp gate. Deku! Izuku! Both Achiko and Itsuka respectively shouted as they were helping Aizawa stand on his feet. Damn it! If I wasn't so useless, Aizawa said in frustration as he knew that there was nothing he could do to save his student. He was in a bad shape and he knew beforehand that trying to erase that monster's quirk was pointless. You see, Midoriya, you kept trying to save everyone, saying that you'll become a hero. But look at you now. You're moments away from death. You couldn't even save yourself, you shitty brat. And no one will come to save you, Tamura said while laughing like a maniac. However, his laugh was interrupted by the sound of the entrance's door crashing, as a silhouette appeared and managed to put the students' hearts at ease. All this time, this place was only filled with the darkness of villainy and fear, but the deeper the darkness, the more dazzling the light shines. All Might! The students shouted with a hint of relief. I had a bad feeling, so I tore myself away from my chat with the principal and came. I passed young Ida on my way and got a rough idea of what had happened. All Might thought as he entered the USJ. Good grief, it really makes me angry. Thinking about how frightening it must have been for the children, and how hard my juniors fought. All Might said in his head as he was looking at the crying students and the injured teachers and students. His eyes focused on the unconscious Tetsu and Shirhai. But that is why I must proudly say, it's fine now. I am here, All Might shouted as he looked at his almost dead successor. He tore his tie as an angry expression covered his face. He wasn't smiling. Over the last year, All Might felt like Izuku was the son he never had, and seeing the young boy in such a state made him boil with rage. He immediately rushed at the Nomu and in a second, punched him in the face with a loud boom, sending him flying back to the central plaza. This managed to send shivers down the villains' spines as they were once again reminded that they were standing in front of the symbol of peace. Even Tamura and Kurogiri flinched for a second. All Might then carried the limp body of his successor, who began to open his eyes again. All Might, I did my best to protect everyone. Too tried my best to stall them until you arrive, Izuku murmured before passing out again. It's okay, young Midoriya. You did a great job. I'm afraid that I'm the one who failed you. All Might murmured before giving Izuku to Sato and Shoji, who carried him to the main entrance. A bit late, wouldn't you say, All Might? I've been waiting for you all day, you trash of society. Shigaraki greeted All Might, but was met with a back slap, bitch slap, from All Might, sending him to the Nomu, who managed to catch his master. The hand that was hiding Shigaraki's face fell. The other villains tried to attack him and overwhelm him with numbers, but he knocked out all of them without breaking a sweat. Sorry, Aizawa. All Might apologized. He couldn't bring himself to look at his fellow teacher because he was ashamed of himself. If he had been here, none of that would have ever happened. I was too weak to protect him. He's the one who protected us all. It should have been the other way around. A child should never bear the adult's responsibilities. Aizawa said with a hint of frustration. You did your best, Aizawa. Now leave everything to me. It's no good. It's no good. It's no good. To him, sorry, father, Shigaraki said as he was hiding his face with his own hand, until he grabbed the hand that was on his face and put it back again. He hit me as he was saving them. It's the violence of a government official. He's fast as expected. I can't follow him with my eyes, but not as fast as I thought he'd be. I guess it's true, after all, that he's getting weaker. All Might then ran towards Shigaraki, ready to attack. Carolina, Nomu, Shigaraki simply said, and the Nomu heeded to his master's call and went in front of him in a flash. Smash! All Might shouted as the attack landed on the Nomu but was unfazed by it, which shocked All Might. He wasn't affected at all? All Might said as he dodged an attack coming from the Nomu and punched him in the guts. But once again the monster was unfazed. It's like All Might's attacks weren't even working. In that case, All Might said as he punched him 2 times in the face before dodging his attack. It doesn't work on his face either. Huh? All Might questioned as he kept punching the Nomu in his chest. It doesn't work because of shock absorption. In order to cause damage to Nomu, it would be most effective to slowly gouge out his flesh. Whether he'd let you do that or not is a different issue, though. After all, he's the anti-symbol of peace who exists only to kill you, Shigaraki pointed out. Thanks for telling me all that. If that's true, then it's easier for me, All Might replied, as he grabbed the Nomu in a bear hug and bent his back backwards to smash the Nomu into the ground and immobilize him. All right, take that. Those guys are underestimating All Might too much. Sato cheered as he was carrying the unconscious Izuku. However, Izuku was able to hear and feel everything happening around him. I know we should leave things to All Might, but I know he's at his limit. Every day on my way to school, I read the hero news in real time. The reason why he didn't attend the class today must be because he spent 3 hours in his hero form. I'm the only one who knows. I'm the only one who knows All Might's secret and the predicament he's in, Izuku said in his head. Unfortunately for All Might, when he was performing his last attack, Kurogiri opened a warp gate which teleported Nomu's upper body right under All Might's back. The former then held All Might with his monster hands by his sides, restraining the number 1 hero. Isis, that how it is? All Might grunted as the Nomu was piercing All Might's injured side with his claws and blood was starting to leak. Shit, that foggy nobody managed to slip from me. And now he's teaming up with the freak against All Might. Bakugo growled. Were you trying to keep him from moving by sticking him deep in the concrete? You won't be able to stop him like that, because Nomu is as strong as you are, Shigaraki exclaimed with a grin. This is good, Kurogiri. It's an unexpected opportunity. Ouch! That's my weak spot. Stop it. All Might said in his head as the Nomu was squeezing his injured side. He then tried to free himself from the Nomu's grasp, but it was no use. What power! He said in his mind, astonished by the Nomu's pure strength. This is your first offense? You'd better prepare yourselves. All Might said, trying his best to free himself from Nomu's claws. Kurogiri Shigaraki simply called his subordinate. I do not want blood and guts overflowing within me, but I would be happy to take in someone as great as you. You are too fast to see with the human eye. Restraining you was Nomu's job, and then, when your body is halfway in, to close the gate and tear you apart is my job. Kurogiri explained their plan. Get your filthy hands off All Might. Bakugo yelled and grabbed the metal piece hanging in Kurogiri's body before he pinned him down. At that moment, the right half of Nomu was completely frozen too. It was Todoroki who has finally appeared. Young Bakugo? Young Todoroki? All I heard was that you all are here to kill All Might. Todoroki said. He controlled it so that the ice stopped just before it reached me. Thanks to that, his grip loosened. All Might said in his head as he was starting to get out of Nomu's grip. Ah, careful there, heroes, Shigaraki exclaimed as he held Ojiro. Explosions, brat, let my subordinate go, and you there, ice brat, don't interfere. You don't want me to kill your classmate here. You bastard! Bakugo growled. He didn't know what to do. Should he try to save Ojiro or All Might? Young Bakugo, young Todoroki, it's okay. Stop interfering. All Might said. But we can't choose to save which life, Todoroki protested, but was cut off. That's an order. You are still kids, so back off. All Might ordered. No! All Might! Ojiro shouted. If only I was stronger. He said in his head as the Nomu broke from Todoroki's ice and began to tighten his grip once again. No need to concern yourself about me. Just do what you have to do, All Might. Shut up for a moment, Shigaraki said as he held Ojiro by his throat with 4 fingers. Bakugo let Kurogiri go like All Might ordered him, still reluctant about this whole thing. All Might began to yell out in agony as a lot of blood was coming out of his injured side. Hearing this, many students began to cry. Many were already losing hope. How could all of this happen during their first week in UA? And was this really the end of All Might, the symbol of peace? Meanwhile, Izuku's injured body was lying on the floor with the other injured students and teachers. He was trying to wake up or move, as he was able to hear All Might yelling from the pain and suffering. But he was just helpless and couldn't do anything. No, All Might. There are still tons of things I want you to teach me. Izuku yelled in his mind as different memories of All Might were flashing in front of him. You can become a hero. Young Midoriya, you are worthy of my power. When I first met you, you had the heart of a true hero. But now you'll have the power of a true hero. All Might, Izuku thought as more memories came to his mind. Come, young Midoriya. This is your hero academia. All Might, young Midoriya, you always mention your mother in conversations, but you never mention your father. May I ask why? All Might said as he handed Izuku his ice cream. Oh, it's just that my father works overseas to provide us the money my mother and I need, so I don't remember him at all. To be honest, All Might, I'm glad I met you because with you, I was finally able to see what it's like to have a father. Izuku said with a blush as he ate his ice cream. All Might was just shocked at the revelation and didn't know how to respond. There was a moment of silence before Izuku spoke again. I'm sorry, All Might, that was actually awkward. Just, young Midoriya, no Izuku. I also think of you as the son I never had. All Might exclaimed with a genuine smile. Izuku was so touched by this. He felt like he was blessed, and he just couldn't believe how much his life has changed in the past few months. He was really glad that he ever met All Might. The #1 hero was always the light in his quirkless and sad life. He was always his last hope, and he's glad that he didn't let go of said hope. Thank you, Izuku murmured. All Might, do you want power? Said a strange voice in Izuku's head. Do you want to save him? Izuku didn't care whose voice was this. He didn't care about anything right now except for saving All Might. Yes, he agreed. Then wake up. Back to All Might. All Might's body has finally entered the warp gate. Kurogiri was finally ready to close the portal and kill All Might. Many students closed their eyes as they couldn't look at their symbol of peace's death, while others were crying and frustrated for not being able to help. All Might was now letting himself get sucked in. This was the death he had to expect as a hero, dying while saving others. Even if I die here, I know that the pros will be here to save the students. I have no regrets dying like this except for one. All Might said in his mind as he began to close his eyes. Young Midoriya, I'm sure you'll become a fantastic hero in the future. And I'm sorry that I wasn't there to guide you till the end of the road. All Might, a voice yelled that caught everyone's attention. Young Midoriya? All Might questioned as he saw Izuku being carried by Monoma and heading towards him. Get your hands off All Might, you bastards! Izuku shouted. Young Midoriya. Don't. All Might tried to tell Izuku to stand back, but he looked at the boy's eyes, and what he saw shocked him. His right eye. The second Tomo appeared. His quirk has awakened, All Might said in his mind. Suddenly, All Might felt the Nomu pulling him out of the portal and letting go of him. What was going on? He looked at the Nomu, but what he saw surprised him. The Nomu's eyes were like Izuku's. He had the Sharingan. A couple of minutes earlier, All Might, Izuku shouted as he woke up and tried to stand up. Izuku, stop, you should rest. You already did plenty for us, Momo said as she ran to his side. No, I have to save All Might, Izuku replied, not willing to let his mentor die like this. Monoma just looked at Izuku in total admiration. He knew how much he was wrong about Izuku earlier. He really is selfless. He really is a true hero. Izuku, stop. You're not going anywhere, idiot. Itsuka shouted at him with tears in her eyes. I already thought I lost you once, and I don't want to see you getting hurt anymore. Can't you see? It's over. We lost. There's nothing we can do. We won't let you go, Deku. And that is finale, Shako added. She had tears in her eyes too. Please, you already did enough for us, she pleaded. No, let him go, Aizawa interrupted. Aizawa-sensei, Izuku murmured. Izuku, your quirk awakened. The second Tomo finally appeared in your right eye, Aizawa said, which shocked everybody. They didn't really understand what Aizawa was talking about, but hearing that Izuku's quirk got stronger was still shocking. Aizawa-sensei, even if he's still hurt. Sato tried to reason with his teacher. As much as it pains me to send him do the adults fight Midoriya, you're the only one who can save us all right now. I will gladly do it, Izuku replied with a lot of determination. His eyes shined and his Sharingan started to spin. Monoma, who had touched Itsuka's shoulder, expanded his hands in size. I can see that you have a plan, but you need someone to carry you, so I'll do it, Monoma said, not willing to back down either. Monoma? Izuku nodded. All right, let's do this. Back to the present. Music. Naruto OST Avenger. Nomu, save Ojiro, Izuku ordered, which made the Nomu charge at Shigaraki with supersonic speed. The Nomu then delivered a powerful uppercut, breaking Shigaraki's jaw in the process, and then carried Ojiro to Izuku. Shigaraki, who was sent flying away, stood up again, still too shocked to comprehend what had just happened. Kurogiri, what is happening? How is the Nomu obeying that kid? Shigaraki asked in panic while he held his broken jaw. I don't know, Tamura. I don't know, Kurogiri nervously replied. Ruining our first week of school. Attempting to kill my friends and teachers. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. You won't get away with this, Izuku yelled. Roa Arar. The Nomu, who was standing behind him, roared to show Izuku's anger. Seeing this, all the villains started to shake in fear. Who the hell are you? You're not a human brat. Non-ono, those eyes. Those red eyes, you must be a devil, Shigaraki shouted while taking a couple of steps back. He was scared of Izuku's death glare. What was that about me not being able to save anyone? Don't count me out so easily. As for who I am, I already told you. I am the hero who never gives up. The hero who will save everyone. Izuku Midoriya, the next fledgling symbol of peace, Izuku replied as Shigaraki just froze in fear. Izuku then looked at the Nomu, who seemed to be still under his control. Nomu, finish all the minions who are here, Izuku ordered. The Nomu didn't hesitate to carry his new master's orders and took care of all the cannon fodders in the USJ in a flash. Izuku then ordered the Nomu to grab Shigaraki, and the Nomu immediately charged at his old master and grabbed him by his shirt before lifting him off the ground. Meanwhile, everyone stood in awe at Izuku's power and how he was able to subdue the Nomu despite his current state. Tell me, Shigaraki, how does it feel now when you're in the receiving end of the Nomu's power? Izuku said, as the Nomu was squeezing Shigaraki's body so hard, and the latter was just grunting in pain. This is how Aizawa-sensei felt, you bastard. This is how Ojiro felt when you decayed part of his tail. This is what everyone felt today. Fear. And now you'll have a taste of your own medicine. Izuku yelled as he was consumed by his rage at the moment. But just then, he started vomiting some blood. Shigaraki, however, never felt this terrified of someone in his entire life. In fact, he doesn't remember when was the last time he felt fear. Young Midoriya, All Might called his successor's name, worried about his current state. All Might, stand down, Izuku said as more blood was coming from his eyes and nose. He was straining himself beyond his limits. He was exhausted and was about to faint in any moment. I can still hold him down much longer. I'll save every, Izuku added before vomiting more blood. Young Midoriya, even though you're injured and so tired, even though you're at your limit, you're pushing forward to save everyone, going beyond plus ultra. My boy, you really are a true hero, All Might said in his head, before giving Izuku a thumbs up. All Might then hit Izuku's neck, which made the latter fall unconscious. At that moment, the Nomu snapped out of his trance and let go of Shigaraki, who was visibly shaking in fear. That fucking brat, Shigaraki exclaimed. He then went on his knees and coughed. Blood was coming out of his mouth too, as he has definitely suffered some internal damage. Shortly after, he got up, shaken to the core, but still managed to regain his composure yet again. What the fuck is this? You just knocked out the only student who could have saved everyone. Do you really want the credit of defeating us to yourself? Shigaraki taunted with a newfound confidence now that Izuku is out of the picture. Young Midoriya, thank you, but it pains me when you destroy your body to save me. And as a hero and your teacher, I can't allow you to do that, All Might said as he looked at his almost unconscious successor. No, All Might, Izuku murmured before fainting. All Might then gave Izuku and Ojiro's bodies to Monoma. Take them to safety, he simply ordered. Nomu, kill All Might and then that green-haired brat. He's too dangerous to be left alive. If he's that strong at 15 years old, then imagine how strong he'll become in a few years. No. In fact, prioritize killing that brat. I won't let him get away for his insolence. Shigaraki ordered the Nomu as he violently scratched his neck. In fact, there was blood dripping from it now. Music, you say run. It's true that I barely have a minute left. My power has been declining faster than I expected. But I must do this. Why? Because I am the symbol of peace, All Might said as he emitted a strong aura that froze everyone in place except for the Nomu. As the two titans finally charged at each other and clashed, their exchanges of fists caused a shockwave that blew everyone away. Damn! Hey, you talked about his shock absorption yourself earlier, didn't you? Shigaraki questioned. Yes, I did, All Might said as he managed to knock the Nomu away. The two titans started to exchange fists so fast at supersonic speeds that even the normal human I couldn't keep up with their movements. Wow, Kirishima said in amazement as he was blown away. Two can't get near them, Kurogiri exclaimed. If your quirk isn't shock nullification but shock absorption, then there's a limit to it, right? All Might said as he began to get the upper hand in the fight, dealing more blows, landing one punch after the other. Made to fight me? If you can withstand me at 100%, then I'll force you to surrender from beyond that. He's not swinging randomly. Every single hit, Bakugo thought, is more than 100% of his power. Todoroki finished Bakugo's thought, as All Might finally landed a devastating punch that knocked the Nomu several meters away. Seeing this, Shigaraki got more and more angry. A hero can always break out of a tough spot, All Might said as he jumped over to the Nomu and began their intense exchange of blows. Neither side was willing to surrender, until All Might grabbed the Nomu by the arm, swung him and threw him to the ground, creating a large crater. Finally, All Might landed in front of the Nomu with a loud thud. "Hey villain, have you ever heard those words?" Resonating deep within him, the past wills and power of one for all echoed in his body, granting even more power within him before he clenched his fist. "Go beyond! Plus! Ultra!" All Might roared as he punched the Nomu in the guts. The result was the punch sending the Nomu upwards through the roof of the USJ at max velocity. He was sent through the sky across the city. The power of the punch also made the entire place shake as if there was an earthquake. All the students just stood there in awe at All Might's power. The symbol of peace was definitely in a league of his own. Is this a comic book or something? It's like he nullified the shock absorption. His brute strength is crazy, Kirishima said with visible shock in his voice. What insane power! Does this mean he rushed at him so fast he couldn't regenerate? Bakugo added he too was shell-shocked. So, this is the top, Todoroki added, admiring All Might's power. Is this the world of pros? Bakugo thought, I really have gotten weaker. In my prime, 5 hits would have been enough. But it took more than 300 hits. All Might said with a smile. Smoke started to emit from his body as he was going to return to his weaker form in any second now. Shigaraki was now shacking with anger. This by far has been the worst day of his life. He arranged for this attack and recruited mobs of villains only for them to be taken out by children. He had Kurogiri scatter them, but one of them escaped. His green Nomu was taken out by a 15-year-old kid. He tried to kill the kid but failed because All Might appeared. He almost had All Might and was going to kill him, but that same kid saved him. And finally, his strongest Nomu was defeated by All Might. Yeah, this wasn't really the best day of his life. On the bright side, could it get any worse? Weaker? No way. We've been completely overwhelmed. I can't believe he did that to my Nomu. He used a cheat, Tamura angrily said as he began to throw a temper tantrum like a child. What's going on? He's not weaker at all. Did that guy lie to me? He added as he scratched his neck. Luckily for our heroes, the long-awaited support finally arrived as the pro-hero snipe fired a shot at Shigaraki's shoulder before Kurogiri quickly warped him and ran away. Next time you're mine, you trash of society, Shigaraki shouted, before escaping through the warp gate. All the students cheered as finally the attack was over. The pro-heroes entered the USJ facility and immediately apprehended the minions. They were accompanied by Principal Nizu and Tenya, and outside the USJ were the police and a couple of ambulances, who immediately took the injured students. Out of the 40 students, 15 had minor injuries, 3 were severely injured but not in a critical state, and 1 was between life and death and needed immediate medical attention. Not to mention there was also 3 severely injured teachers. Unfortunately for UA, the public had to know about the injured student who was in a critical condition, and so in a span of a few hours everyone knew that Isuku Midoriya was injured due to him taking out one of the main villains. They also heard how his chivalrous acts ended up saving the students and teachers, as well as helping All Might in defeating the strongest villain. At the League of Villains hideout, you were wrong, Master. All Might wasn't weaker at all. He managed to defeat the Nomu. Shigaraki exclaimed. What? He managed to defeat the 2 Nomus? A mysterious dark voice questioned from a monitor. From the sound of it, it looked like the person behind the voice was surprised to hear what he has just heard. Well, to be honest, the green one was defeated by one of the students. He had crazy powers, Master. His eyes were red and could see through any attacks thrown at him. He also managed to hypnotize one of the Nomus. Not only that, but there was green lightning all around him that seemed to increase his physical strength. Kurogiri explained what happened. That annoying brat. Because of him my plans were ruined. We almost had All Might, but even after being injured so badly he saved him. That brat. That brat. Shigaraki growled in frustration as he decayed a random chair. I want to kill him, he yelled. Red eyes and green lightning. What was his name? The mysterious voice asked. Midoriya, I think, Kurogiri replied, but the voice didn't respond back. There was an utter silence before Shigaraki broke it. Is something wrong, Master? Shigaraki angrily asked, still frustrated by the failure of the attack. No, don't mind me. You weren't just prepared enough today. We underestimated them. Gather the elites and build up the league. I'll do some research on my end. Something doesn't add up, the mysterious dark voice said before the monitor turned off. At UA, the day was finally over, but the students were not mentally okay at all. They suffered a lot. Useless, coward, weak, failure, fear, terrified, shocked, afraid were the common thoughts they had about themselves. And in reality, this was an experience they never should have had experienced until their third year in UA or something. But now they got to know firsthand how dangerous the job of a hero truly was. After being interrogated by the police, the students went back to their respective classes. No one dared to speak about anything that happened today as they were tired. They packed their stuff and each student was accompanied back home by his parents. All of them did so except the 4 injured students. Isuku was one of the people who mentally suffered the most along with Achiko. Unlike some other students who were having nightmares about today's events or some trouble sleeping, they couldn't sleep at all. Each time they would try, their minds would drift to Isuku and his injured state. Is he going to be fine? Did the doctors already heal him? Is he ever going to recover? Questions like these and many more were going through their minds tonight. On the other hand, Momo couldn't help but feel guilty for allowing them to go near the center plaza or leaving Isuku by himself. The guilt was so immense that she only got 2 hours of sleeping. At the hospital, Recovery Girl came out of the surgery room to meet Inko, who had tears bursting from her eyes. Recovery Girl, please tell me that my Isuku is going to be okay. Please, the poor mother pleaded. Recovery Girl looked down and shook her head before saying, he's in a very bad shape. His right leg is broken, his ribs are a mess and he suffered many cuts. His shoulder and chest are in a bad shape too and he lost a lot of blood. But that's not the main problem. I'm afraid he has suffered a lot of brain damage and I don't know when he will wake up again.
I'm sorry.
As Recovery Girl finished, Inko immediately fainted, unable to process what just happened to her Isuku. The nurses quickly ran at her side and did their best to help her. Meanwhile, All Might, who was in his weaker form, heard everything Recovery Girl said from behind a wall. Young Midoriya, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault, he said in his mind, as his face was shadowed with guilt. Chapter 13. The Uchihas? At the hospital, Recovery Girl came out of the surgery room to meet Inko, who had tears bursting from her eyes. Recovery Girl, please tell me that my Isuku is going to be okay. Please, the poor mother pleaded. Recovery Girl looked down and shook her head before saying, he's in a very bad shape. His right leg is broken, his ribs are a mess and he suffered many cuts. His shoulder and chest are in a bad shape too and he lost a lot of blood. But that's not the main problem. I'm afraid he has suffered a lot of brain damage and I don't know when he will wake up again. I'm sorry. As Recovery Girl finished, Inko immediately fainted, unable to process what just happened to her Isuku. Meanwhile, All Might, who was in his weaker form, heard everything Recovery Girl said from behind a wall. Young Midoriya, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault, he said in his mind, as his face was shadowed with guilt. 3 days later, Principal Nizu and the UA staff were in a meeting about the USJ incident. Despite their injuries, Aizawa and Vlad King were also present as well as All Might. Only 13 was absent because of her injuries. Over the past 3 days, the media was able to question the reputation of UA and their security systems, which made them look bad in the eyes of the public. It also didn't help that the public also knew about Izuku's condition, and that his recovery is in question. I believe that this whole mess we're in now is our fault, and the fact that one of our students may never wake up again is enough proof that we have failed as a hero course school. Especially since that said student had an amazing debut as a hero in training by being our #1 freshman. We could even agree that Midoriya was able to show early signs of being a potential future top hero. Of course, I'm not trying to say that the other students' safety doesn't concern us, but I'm only showing you how bad our image is in the eyes of the public. Nizu explained without using his normal cheerful tone. His statement was able to put guilt on All Might, Aizawa, and Vlad's faces. I'm the one to blame. I was too weak to protect the students and easily lost after the first fight. I was the most useless one out there. Vlad exclaimed with visible frustration.
No.
This is all my fault. If only I hadn't used up all my time in my hero form, I could have been there from the beginning and stopped the League of Villains from harming anyone. All Might replied in frustration. He felt deeply responsible for what happened to Isuku and the others and couldn't help but blame himself. It's okay, All Might. It's not your fault alone. We're all guilty, as I said. However, I have one specific question for a certain teacher, Nizu said, before turning towards Aizawa. Aizawa, I need to know, why did you allow Midoriya to jump again in the fight against the villains? I expect that you have a good reason to back up your decision. After all, I know you're a rational person. Aizawa tightened his fists. His whole face was covered in bandages, but everyone was able to see that he was frustrated. I don't have an explanation. I saw him struggling to get up again to fight, but before I could tell him that he's not going anywhere, I looked in his eyes and everything changed. What do you mean by everything changed? Present Mike asked, clearly confused by what his friend was trying to say. His injuries disappeared and my judgment was clouded for a moment. It was like everything was fine and under his control. I couldn't think straight. Aizawa replied, I can vouch for this. After all, young Midoriya was able to put even the Nomu under his control. All Might added. Midnight grabbed a student file that had Izuku's name on it before saying, let's see.
Isuku Midoriya geskurk is Sharingan.
He has enhanced perception, super strength, super speed, and can copy fighting styles. Does that mean the boy has mind control now? Are we all sure the boy doesn't have more than one quirk? She jokingly said, but All Might flinch at her joke. I think his mind control ability is the result of his quirk awakening. The second Tomo in his right eye appeared when he woke up to help you, All Might. Aizawa pointed out. Wait, what are you guys saying? Present Mike asked. He didn't understand what they meant by quirk awakening and such. Midoriya has weird things in his eyes that looks like commas, we call them Tomos. He has 2 in his left eye and had 1 in his right eye, but now he has 2 in both eyes. That's what we meant by his quirk awakening. Aizawa answered. And how exactly do you two know about this? Vlad questioned the 2 pro heroes, curious about the matter. Recovery Girl was studying his quirk last year, and she asked us for help. Aizawa replied, does anyone think it's weird that the kid has so many abilities with his quirk? I mean, super strength, super speed, enhanced perception, copy abilities, and now mind control. It's like he has a whole arsenal of quirks. Cementos asked, which made All Might flinch again and nervously sweat as this wasn't a joke this time. I believe that we should leave this matter for another time, Cementos, since I gathered you all here to discuss about future plans for UA. Nizu exclaimed, as he grabbed a stack of papers and looked carefully at it. First of all, the sports festival will be postponed. It will be held in 1 month from now. Isn't that going to make the villains and public think that we're afraid of the villains? Vlad asked. We're going to say that we're letting Class 1A and 1B recover before the sports festival so that they could do their best. Secondly, we're going to start a dorm system in UA, protected by the best security system UA has ever seen. Finally, we're going to make Class 1A and 1B go through an intense training program. Each student will have a unique program that he can modify however he wants to prepare for the upcoming sports festival. We're going to show the world what happens when our students go beyond plus ultra, Nizu said, and shortly after dismissed everyone, ending the meeting. Back at Class 1A, I wonder how Midoriya and the others are doing today? Tenya questioned. He was hoping that his injured peers were getting much better. If only I was faster, he thought in frustration. When he learned that many of his peers were injured, he cursed himself for being too slow to call the pros. I heard that Ojiro, Tetsu, and Kurwaro were getting dispatched today. Ribbit. Suis answered Tenya, while putting a finger on her chin. That's great. We should pay them a visit, Kirishima excitedly said, trying to get rid of the gloomy atmosphere that filled the class. That's a great idea, Denki pointed out. He too was excited and happy to see his peers. It seems like things were really getting better now. The school bell then rang as it was lunchtime and the students were preparing to leave the classroom to go to the cafeteria. What's going on? Achiko asked. as the homeroom's door was blocked by a swarm of students. "What business do you have with Class A?" Tenya questioned. "We can't get out." "What did you come here for anyway?" Mineta yelled, scouting out the enemy. "We're the ones who made it out of the villain's attack. They probably want to check US out before the sports festival. There's no point in doing stuff like that. Out of my way, extras," Bakugo exclaimed as he pushed through the swarm of students to get out of the class. "Stop calling people extras just because you don't know them," Tenya shouted while moving his arm like a robot. He didn't want Bakugo to cause trouble with other students. "I came to see what the famous Class A and B were like, but you seem pretty arrogant. Are all the students in the hero course like this? Seeing something like this makes me disillusioned," a boy with purple hair and average height said with a monotone voice and tired eyes that would give Aizawa a run for his money. "There are quite a few people who enrolled in general studies or other courses because they didn't make it into the hero course. Did you know that? The school has left those of us a chance. Depending on the results of the sports festival, they'll consider our transfer into the hero course," he said while Bakugo kept walking, not caring about what the boy was telling him. "And it seems they may also transfer people out. Scouting out the enemy? I at least came to say that even if you're in the hero course, if you get too carried away, I'll sweep your feet out from under you. I came with a declaration of war," the kid said, but Bakugo kept walking without a care. "I heard that after the villain attack, many of you got hurt, which means you guys are weaker now," the kid added with a grin, and this time, Bakugo finally stopped in his tracks. "I heard that there's even one guy that may never recover. I guess I'll just take his place," the boy finished. At that moment, Class A and B had frowned and got angry. Itsuka and other students were even going to step up. However, Bakugo immediately fired an explosion close enough to the boy's face. "You son of a bitch! You can take that declaration of war and shove it up your ass," Bakugo yelled as glaring at the swarm of students. "You extras, I want you to listen to something carefully. Class A and B have badasses extras, who not only survived the villain's attack, but also kicked their butts. So, come and get US if you can. And you lazy ass," Bakugo yelled as he pointed his finger towards the purple hair boy. "The one you're trying to take his place is called Isuku Midoriya, and that fucking nerd is the strongest extra, and the only one who will be able to fight me for the #1 title in the sports festival. So, if you try to get in my way or his way, you'll be fucked up," Bakugo shouted as everyone was speechless. Some because of how aggressive Bakugo was, and others because they never imagined Bakugo to recognize anyone else besides himself. "I don't know if I should be happy or annoyed that he called us badasses extras or not," Zero exclaimed. "I guess that Bakugo is starting to change in his own way, but that speech was so manly," Kirishima said. "Lately these days, he's way calmer than he used to," Tsuyu pointed out. "Everyone now hates us. We'll just be at a disadvantage at the sports festival." Mineta kept shouting and freaking out, but no one was noticing him. At the back of the class, Momo had a worried expression that she just couldn't shake off. "Yaoyorozu, is everything all right?" Tokoyami asked. "Huh? Oh, sorry, I was just spacing out," she responded with a smile, but it was clear that it was a fake one. Something was troubling her. Later that day, Aizawa entered the class as he had some announcements to his students. "Everyone, take your seats. There's something we need to discuss. The sports festival is going to be postponed?" The whole class shouted in unison. "Honestly, I don't know who I should be mad at. Is it you guys for yelling or the writer who put me in this predicament? I hope he makes sure that the sports festival becomes an amazing one to be remembered, or else you guys should stop reading this fanfic," Aizawa sternly said. "Who is Aizawa-sensei talking to?" Denki whispered. "I don't know," Mina replied. "Anyways, all of you will get a unique special training program that you can modify it however you want, since we still don't know the full extent of your abilities. It should help you during the sports festival," Aizawa added. "That's manly," Kirishima shouted, but received a chop from Aizawa. "Finally, for security reasons, we will have you guys move into the new UA dorms starting from next week," Aizawa exclaimed, before the whole class suddenly began to yell and scream. They were excited to live together. "I swear I hate that writer," Aizawa groaned as he went back in his sleep bag. At the hospital, it seems like you boys are good to go, Recovery Girl said as she handed Ojiro, Tetsu, and Shirhai some gummies. They were walking out of the room after their final inspection, only to be met by some students of Class A and B who were waiting for them. Hey everyone, how is it going? Ojiro asked. We're fine. We'll fill you up on what happened today, but how are you, man? Kirishima asked. Well, I'm fine now. My chest is still covered in bandages, and luckily my tail is back to normal, although I should not really use it for the next few days, Ojiro said as he looked at his tail, still covered in bandages. What about you, Tetsu? Owaze asked. I'm all good now, but man, that salamander guy was tough. He was one hell of a bastard. Thank goodness he's behind bars now. Honestly, I would have been dead if it wasn't for Cozy Eye and Yui. Tetsu replied as he pointed at the two of them. Thank you all again for protecting me, Toru said as she remembered when Salamander took her hostage, but Tetsu took the fire attack meant for her. It's okay. No need to mention it. Tetsu responded. No need to thank me, Cozy Eye added, and Yui just nodded. What about you, Korwaro? What happened to you? Denki asked. He was actually the one who was able to stall the villain called Kurogiri so that I could escape. I must thank you as you have risked your life so that I could call the pros, Tenya said as he bowed. It was actually my first time jumping into something black but not inanimate, so I got a headache and passed out for a few days. But no need to thank me, as it was because of our combined effort that we survived that attack. Shirhai replied. Oh, by the way, I don't see Midoriya. Where's he? Ojiro asked, but was met with sad expressions from all of the students. Music, sadness, and sorrow. Naruto. He got severely hurt. Recovery Girl said that his brain was damaged too, and they don't know if he'll ever wake up. Itsuka said as she was trying her best to hold her tears. Ojiro questioned in shock as he couldn't believe what he just heard. He immediately then asked a nurse where was Izuku's room and ran towards it. Once he arrived, he looked through the window of the big room and saw Izuku, unconscious and with many medical equipment connected to his body. This is all my fault, Ojiro said as his face was shadowed with guilt. This is my fault. No, it's not. It's none of our faults. It's all because of the villains, Achiko said as she had a sad expression on her face. She didn't want Ojiro to blame himself. No, I was too weak. He got hurt twice because of me. I got in his way, and then Shigaraki took me as a hostage. This is all my fault. It's my fault that my best friend is in this state, Ojiro replied as his eyes were teary. Seeing his best friend and rival in this state was pretty hard on him. Ojiro then began to remember the day they declared their rivalry. Train well, and let's both get stronger and go to UA, Izuku said with determination as he held his fist. Right back at you. From now on you're my rival Midoriya, so let's push each other to the top, Ojiro replied before he returned the fist bump. Then his memories shifted to that call after they both passed the UA entrance exam. Getting to UA was only our first step, Izuku began. Yeah, from now on, we will compete and push each other to the top, because that's the spirit of youth, Ojiro said with a lot of enthusiasm before the two boys laughed. We had a promise. We promised each other to reach the top together, Ojiro said as he gritted his teeth and clenched his right fist. My best friend is in this state because I was weak to do anything. Damn it, Ojiro added in frustration. He was ashamed of himself. He was cursing himself. Some hero am I. I couldn't even save one friend. What are you saying? Momo questioned, grabbing his attention. I was the one who supported his idea to go to the center plaza. I was the one who left you two back there alone with the Nomus. I didn't even fight. I just stood there and watched from afar, Momo said as she fell on her knees and began to cry. We were all a team. It's our fault, Owaze added as he looked down on the floor. He too was frustrated. All of us committed the sin of leaving our comrade, Ibra said as she felt guilty too. I never saw someone as manly as him, Kirishima added in a sad tone. He may not have known Izuku for a long time, but he knew how much Izuku is a good and selfless person. Izuku Midoriya, I want you to know that I'm sorry about before. and that you're our hero, the hero of all of us. In all my life, I've never met a person as selfless as you are, and honestly, I can clearly see why people gather around you and believe in you." Monoma exclaimed in his head as he wanted to apologize to Izuku for insulting him before. He felt guilty that the guy who he insulted out of jealousy saved his life the same day. How did our first week in high school ended like this? Denki questioned with a hint of sadness. Why did you keep going, idiot? I told you I didn't want to see you almost die again. Why did you sacrifice yourself, Izuku? Itsuka said as she also began to sob and cry. Flashback, Izuku had just won a sparring match against Itsuka, and they were both taking a rest. Tell me, Izuku, what do you plan for the future? Itsuka asked as she got closer to Izuku. Too close, Izuku muttered, and his face was completely red. Itsuka chuckled at how shy Izuku was before stepping back a little. So, you can beat me in a spar, but you still can't hold a conversation with me. Izuku, you really should work on that muttering and shyness of yours. I'm sorry, Itsuka. To actually want to become a hero, Izuku exclaimed. With that muttering and shyness of yours, you won't be able to become a hero, so we need to work on that first. Itsuka replied as she chuckled again. But what kind of hero do you want to be? I want to be a hero who can save everyone with a smile, like All Might. I want to be a hero that would make people safe once he arrives. That's the hero I want to be. The one who saves everyone. Izuku excitedly said and smiled, which made Itsuka blush, but she managed to hide it. Damn, he has a cute smile, she thought. Back to present. You might have saved everyone with a smile, but what about our smiles? She said in frustration as her tears kept running down on her cheeks. The next scene would be described as heartbreaking as many of the students were crying at the sight of Izuku, who was lying on the bed in a vegetable state. His mother was also inside, sleeping as she didn't get any sleep these past few days. Even Bakugo, who was wearing a black hoodie and hiding so no one could see him, could be seen cursing under his breath. Later that night, All Might came in his weakened form to check on his successor. He always came every morning and every night to check on him. How is he doing, recovery girl? Is there any sign that he's getting better? All Might asked. I'm sorry, Toshinori, but his condition hasn't improved at all, she replied. I swear on my honor as a hero that I will catch him and his league of villains and bring them to justice, All Might exclaimed as he clenched his knuckles. Is it really him? Who's behind this? I thought he didn't survive your last encounter. I don't know how did he survive that death battle, but it has to be him. Those Nomus had multiple quirks and didn't have any humanity left in them. I talked with Detective Tsukachi, and we're 100% sure it's him, All Might said as he had an angry look on his face. First my predecessor and now my successor. Calm down, Toshinori. We're in a hospital, recovery girl sighed. I think you should visit Midoriya. I'm sure it would make his mind happy wherever it is. All Might finally managed to calm down and regain his composure. I believe you're right, All Might said before entering Izuku's room. Who are you? Are you a doctor who can help Izuku? Is he finally going to wake up? Inko asked with a hint of hope. She was hoping that her Izuku would finally wake up and come back to her. All Might was sad that he was the one who had to bring her hopes down. It was ironic how the symbol of peace, who normally brings hope to the people's hearts, was now going to disappoint this lady. I'm sorry. I'm the person who trained Izuku to get into UA. All Might replied as Izuku's mother frowned once she heard the name of the school where Izuku got hurt. Can I have a moment with young Midoriya? He asked. Yeah, sure, Inko replied as she wiped some tears in her eyes and got out of the room. Young Midoriya, I want to say thank you for saving my life. You truly have proved to everyone you saved that you're a true hero, All Might said softly as he looked at his unconscious successor. I wonder, when did you become so courageous, my boy? When did you become such a fine young man? All Might said as he began to remember the first couple of weeks when he trained Izuku for the entrance exam. Flashback, Izuku was pushing a car on Dogoba Beach and All Might in his weaker form was cheering for him. But Izuku suddenly stopped. Hey, don't tell me you're already tired. Where's all the spirit you normally have? All Might asked. It's no use, All Might. I can't do it, I'm useless. Izuku suddenly snapped and started shaking. All Might took a more serious tone before saying, "What's wrong, young Midoriya? This isn't you. I lost again yesterday. In a sparring match at the dojo. Even after all the training I did, even after all the effort you've put in me, I still lost. Young Midoriya, it's okay to lose sometimes. This is still the first month of your training. I don't expect you to go from level 1 to 50 in one swoop," All Might replied, but was cut off by Izuku. "I'm not losing because I'm weak. I'm losing because
I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
Izuku shouted as he started to cry. "Every time I spar against someone, I immediately start shaking in fear. Every time I fight, I start to remember it all. The bullying, the pain, the humiliation, and I'm just afraid that I'll go through all of it all over again. But you fought well against Aizawa, so what's wrong? Because Mr. Aizawa is a hero, I knew he would hold back and would never injure me like the others. But the others once left me in a park with a broken leg. And nobody bothered to help me. Even at the hospital, they kicked me out early because I'm quirkless, and they needed the bed for someone with a quirk. Yes, I'm a quirkless, useless loser," Izuku exclaimed before All Might pulled him in a sudden hug, surprising Izuku. "Young man, we really should fix your attitude," All Might said as he sighed. He then took a moment to think about his next words carefully. "First of all, that quirkless coward you speak of was the only one to go and fight the sludge villain while all the pro heroes froze in their places, including myself. So, if this isn't courage and bravery, then I don't know what it is. Secondly, remember that you have a quirk now. Even though I chose you to become my successor, it wasn't because of your awesome quirk, but you Izuku Midoriya. I chose you for who you are. I saw potential in you. I saw a hero," All Might exclaimed as he patted Izuku's head. "If it makes it better for you, the number 1 hero who's standing in front of you now was also quirkless," All Might added as he kind of understood what Izuku went through. "You were quirkless, All Might?" Izuku asked with a weak, shocked voice. "Yes, young Midoriya, but just like I was amazed by your heroic spirit, my master was impressed by my heroic spirit too and gave me one for all. The truth is, when I see you training every day, I see my younger self in you," All Might pointed out as he smiled. "Do you really believe in me, All Might?" Izuku asked as he finally stopped crying. All Might then transformed into his hero form before saying, "Yes, I do, young Midoriya. So stand up and rise, because you, my boy, are the next symbol of peace. Now, let's continue your training." He then flashed a smile at Izuku. "Yes, sir. No, show me your fire." "Yes, sir," Izuku yelled. "Excellent. By the way, All Might, what was your predecessor like?" Izuku asked. "Well, I have to say, she was unique." All Might chuckled as he remembered Nana's antics. "But she was a very kind person at heart, young Midoriya, just like you." "Whoa," Izuku simply replied. "Anyway, let's continue with your training. We shouldn't slack off after all." All Might quickly changed the subject. "Right." The next day, Izuku grabbed the hand of his opponent before flipping him over his body. "Midoriya wins," Daisuke announced as Izuku and his opponent bowed to each other. "I see that you've improved, Midoriya, and I can see that your heart is finally in the right place," Daisuke added and patted Izuku's head. "Yes, Daisuke-sensei. Someone important to me was able to help me overcome my self-doubt problems, and I'm sure he did a fine work," Daisuke replied with a smile. Back to present. All Might then remembered the happiness on Izuku's face when he came telling him that he won his first sparring match. "You sure are not that same kid who doubted and hated himself anymore. You're now a person who's respected and loved by many people, confident in your abilities, but also humble, and willing to put the others' well-being above yours. But please, young Midoriya, please wake up. The whole world needs you. Your mom needs you. Your friends need you. I need you," All Might said, as he had visible tears in his eyes. As a hero, All Might saw many deaths, including kids, elders, and women. He got used to it over the time, but seeing Izuku in this state, it was different. It reminded him of the death of his master. If not, it was even more painful. It also didn't help when he heard this morning from random doctors that if his condition doesn't improve at all, they will have to unplug the medical equipment and let him die. To All Might, it was like a sun dying. All Might held Izuku's hand before he said, "Please, Izuku, wake up." At that moment, a scent of ozone started to fill the room and green electricity began to swirl around Izuku's body. All Might then gasped in shock as Izuku opened his eyes, revealing the Sharingan. Earlier that day, Izuku opened his eyes and found himself floating in space. He looked around and saw the Earth. Izuku may have seen photos of Earth many times in books when he used to study in the library, as he had nothing better to do, but seeing it from space, Izuku was able to see how beautiful it was. Wait, what am I doing here and how can I breathe? How can I even talk in space? Izuku questioned as he was nervous and confused about what was happening. Suddenly, though, he felt his body being pulled towards something. He looked underneath him and saw the moon before he landed on it.
Joes.
A strange yet familiar voice said. Izuku then turned around and saw a strange man. Who are you, sir? I'm your ancestor. The man replied. He had short, unkempt, dark-colored hair, black eyes, and a relatively broad nose and well-defined eyelashes that were turns upwards at each end. He wore a high-collared, dark-colored outfit along with a tanto, short sword, strapped to the right side of the back of his shoulder. He also wore what appeared to be a harness for his tanto, which ran across his chest and fastened over both his shoulders. What are we doing here? Did I die? Are my friends okay at least? What is this place? And what do you mean by ancestor? Izuku began to ask so many questions and began to mutter, only for the man to give him a light chop. Easy there, kid. Don't you remember who gave you the power you needed at the USJ? The man asked. Izuku began to recall what happened at the USJ and remembered the strange voice who offered him power. It was this man's voice. You were the one who offered me the power and helped me awaken my second tomo. Izuku replied. Exactly, although I didn't really give you any power. You were already going to unlock it. I just gave you a push with one for all to wake you up, as well as increase your emotional stress levels to quickly unlock the second tomo. Now to answer your questions, my name is Shursui Uchiha, and no, you're not dead. In fact, we're in your mindscape, Shursui said as he pointed over a holographic screen, displaying the events that happened at the USJ. Izuku let out a sigh of relief before saying, I'm glad that everyone is okay, and I guess that I'm here because I didn't wake up yet. Indeed, you've been unconscious for 3 days now, Shursui pointed out. 3 days? Oh no, this is bad. How do I wake up? Can I even wake up again? I also must have missed a lot of classes. Everyone must be worried too. My mom must be freaking out too. Izuku began his muttering again, before getting another chop from Shursui. Relax, kid, sheesh. You mutter a lot, Shursui said with a sweat drop. Let me explain a few things, Izuku. You see that symbol you have on your hero costume? That's the Uchiha symbol. The Uchiha symbol? What is an Uchiha? The Uchihas were a clan that lived together and had a special dojutsu called the Sharingan. The Sharingan, that's my quirk. It seems you're mistaken about something, but the Sharingan is not a quirk, it's a dojutsu. It existed long before the appearance of quirks. A DOJ what? A dojutsu, it means an eye technique. There were other clans that had their special dojutsu, but we the Uchihas were known for the Sharingan as it was a really powerful dojutsu. So, this means I'm still quirkless, Izuku said as he was reflecting on what he was hearing. Well, you still have one for all, and that said quirk is the one that helped me appear in front of you now, Shursui replied. Also, you're really underestimating the power of the Sharingan boy. I remember when I was your age, people would have done anything to get my Sharingans, and eventually there was even someone who managed to take one of my eyes. I really talked like a grandfather just then, Shursui thought. I'm sorry to hear this, Izuku said. Don't be. After all, I'm already dead and this happened over 1,000 years ago, Shursui replied. What? 1,000 years ago? The Uchiha clan goes from way back then? Izuku yelled in surprise. Yeah, the Uchiha clan existed for hundreds of years before I was even born. Then what happened to our clan? Where are the other Uchihas? Izuku asked. I believe that this is a story to tell for another time, Shursui said as he knew that Izuku would wake up soon. The most important thing I want to tell you right now is that your Sharingan can grow even stronger. However, as you saw when you overused your new powers, the genjutsu to be more precise, along with having a severe injury to your head, you ended up in a coma. If it wasn't for All Might knocking you out, you would have never woken up ever again. Shursui explained in a more serious tone, which made Izuku freak out. What is genjutsu? He asked after calming down. It's the power to cast illusions or simply an illusion. It's one of the Sharingan's granted power. Shursui replied, I see, so that is the new power I acquired, and it'll grow stronger the more you train and use it. How do you know so much about the current world, Grandpa? Izuku asked. Shursui let out a laugh before responding. You can call me Shursui. Like I said before, when you got one for all, it's like the Quark searched through your Sharingan heritage and brought me. So basically, I was formed from your genetic memories. Shursui then pointed at a large green star before saying, You see that large green star? That's one for all. Anyway, I came to existence when your blue energy. Wow, it's really huge. I don't know how I didn't see it before. Izuku replied in shock, interrupting Shursui. By the way, what did you mean when you said my Sharingan can grow even stronger? Izuku asked, but was interrupted when he saw his friends crying in the big holographic screen. And that's your cue to leave, Izuku, Shursui said before patting Izuku's head, who suddenly found himself floating again. Wait, Shursui, I still have so many questions to ask, Izuku said to Shursui, who was now waving a goodbye at him. Izuku, however, found himself being pulled towards the big green star that was one for all. As Izuku was going towards the star, he began to see his mother, who was crying by his side. Then in another holographic screen, he saw All Might, who had a sad expression. Please, Izuku, wake up. Don't worry, guys. I'm coming back, Izuku said as he heard their voices. His Sharingan then activated as well as his full cowl, and as soon as he collided with the star, a white light blinded him before he finally opened his eyes to see the white ceiling of the hospital. At that moment, a scent of ozone started to fill the room and green electricity started to cover Izuku's body before he opened his eyes, revealing his Sharingan. Young Midoriya, you're awake, All Might excitedly said with a hint of shock. Sorry to keep everyone waiting, Izuku apologized with a sheepish smile. I swear you're going to be the end of me, kid. All Might let out a sigh in relief before he hugged Izuku. All Might? Izuku questioned, surprised by the gesture, but he then returned the older man's hug. Wait, how is everyone? No one was hurt, right? Izuku said as he began to panic. He saw what happened at the USJ, but wanted to make sure that what he saw wasn't a dream. Sheesh, you really should learn to be selfish, kid. Don't worry, everyone is okay, All Might replied as he let go of Izuku. Well, I take after you, Izuku said with a smile. Aizawa is mad at you for using your quirk on him, All Might pointed out. Izuku let out a laugh before saying, I'm sure he'll wrap me up in his capture weapon. Izuku! Inko entered the room with tears in her eyes. She was so happy that Izuku finally woke up and hugged him tightly. Ow, ow, mom. I'm still injured. Oh, sorry, Inko said as she let go of him. I was so worried about you, she said, and just then waterfalls began to come out of her eyes. Mom, please calm down before you drown us all, Izuku said in a worried tone, which made All Might chuckle before excusing himself. We'll talk later, young Midoriya, All Might said as he left the room. Recovery Girl finally came and began to scold Izuku for all the trouble he gave her while he just laughed and sheepishly smiled. Inko finally left the room and Recovery Girl did a few tests to see how Izuku's body is doing before she finally returned to his room with the results. Most of your injuries have healed, young man. Even the brain damage miraculously disappeared. But, she said as she then showed him an X-ray of his right leg. Your right leg was gravely injured after you broke it. Seriously, what did you kick? A monster with a bone regeneration quirk and enhanced bones through a special surgery, making his bones as hard to hit as steel given how many times he regenerated, or even more. Not to mention I used 100% of one for all, he said, and Recovery Girl couldn't help but frown at his statement. She had to admit the boy has been through a lot. Putting your reckless behavior aside, I can't heal your leg because you don't have enough stamina after healing the rest of your injuries. No only that, but it may ache for a while, so you'll have this bracer for 2 weeks. And even after those 2 weeks, I prohibit you from doing any physical activity for another week. What? Then at this rate, I'll miss the sports festival, he exclaimed in a worried tone as he began to freak out. Don't worry about that. The sports festival was postponed. It will be held in a month from now. Just focus on getting better, Recovery Girl said, as she got out of the room to let Isuku rest. Damn it, this will give me only a week to train while the others are going to surely catch up to me, Isuku said in his head. But fighting stronger opponents will surely make it more exciting. Isuku was sleeping in the hospital's bed when he woke up at the sound of someone knocking on the window. He was confused when he saw no one, although he could swear that he heard the sound of a girl giggling. He turned on his phone, ignoring all the messages he got before activating his Sharingan to see the second Tomo in his right eye. The Uchihas. I wonder what happened to them, he murmured before turning off his phone and going back to sleep.
Chapter 14. Himiko Toga.
Izuku woke up the next day feeling much better. He looked at his right leg that was currently in a leg brace and his body that was still covered in bandages. Looks like his recovery will take a while. This is really going to hinder my training. Everyone is going to get stronger while I'm stuck here doing nothing. I still don't have much control over One for All, and Shursui said that my Sharingan can get stronger. Although, I don't know what did he mean by that, Izuku said, as he grabbed his crutches to go to the bathroom and wash his face. I wonder what the others are doing at UA right now. Well, I'll ask them when they come to visit, he added with a smile before brushing his teeth. He went back to his bed and grabbed his secret hero analysis journal, which he asked All Might to bring for him. This journal contained only information about himself and All Might. He began to update his personal information, changing the Sharingan from quirk to an eye technique passed down through his family, the Uchiha. He then added new ability, Genjutsu, the ability to cast illusions and even control beasts through its powers like the Nomu. However, as he finished writing, he murmured, if the Sharingan was passed down to me through my family, then this could only mean that either mom or dad is an Uchiha descendant. I'm sure that my mom isn't the one since she doesn't have the Sharingan, so maybe it's my father. But I've never heard my mom mentioning that dad has the Sharingan. And when she saw mine, she reacted as if it were her first time seeing it. Maybe it skipped a generation? I don't know. Anyways, no one can find the truth about One for All or the Sharingan. If people discover that another source of power exists other than quirks, it will be a problem, and scientists will certainly want to experiment on me. Izuku shuddered at the idea of being experimented on. He finally closed his book and put it away. Even if the Sharingan is not a quirk, it's still a power that requires stamina. If I'm going to compete in the sports festival and fight a lot of battles, I'll have to increase the time limit of how long I can use it. And if straining it decreases my time limit, then I'll have to get used to using it for long periods. Izuku activated his Sharingan and decided to keep it activated for a while, but after only 2 minutes, he felt tired. Right? I forgot that I don't have any stamina now, he said before he completely lay down on his bed, deciding that it was better to rest. Later that day, some students from Class A and B came to visit Izuku again to check on him, but were surprised when they didn't see him in the emergency room. Wait, where is Deku? Achiko nervously asked as everyone was filled with dread, hoping that nothing bad happened to him. Hey everyone, you're all here, Izuku said from behind them. Me Midoriya, you woke up, Ida pointed out in surprise. The boy looked so much better than yesterday. Yeah, I woke up yesterday. I'm sorry for worrying you guys. I heard you came every day, Izuku said with a sheepish smile and rubbed the back of his head. Let's go. Izuku tried to say something, but was cut off by Itsuka, who ran into his hug. Idiot! I told you not to risk your life again, yet you did it, Itsuka said with a shaky voice and tears in her eyes. Izuku was surprised by the girl's reaction, not expecting things to turn out like this. Tu thought I lost you. I was so lost and felt so helpless. How could you do that to me? Izuku frowned a bit, upset that he put the girl through so much pain. I'm sorry for worrying you, Itsuka. I'm fine now and I promise I won't overdo it again. Achiko also hugged Izuku from his back with her own tears. Deku, I thought I wouldn't see you again. I thought you would never wake up. I was really scared when I saw you after the USJ. Once again, Izuku was really surprised by how many people were genuinely worried about him. No one ever worried about him like that except for his own mother. He patted her head and apologized too before turning to the others. Thank you for bringing us help, Ida. You saved us from the villain's attack. And Ojiro, you really saved my life back then. How's your tail? No, Midoriya, you were the true hero that day. If it wasn't for you, everyone would have gotten hurt or worse. Tenya replied and bowed, showing his respect and gratitude. WW what? No. Two didn't really do that much, Ida. There's no reason to thank me. All Might is the one who saved us. Ojiro sighed, his friend sure didn't change one bit. Just take the compliment for once, Midoriya. As for my tail, it should take a few days before it's back to normal. And well, you saved my life too, so thank you. Ojiro replied, compared to you, I only got in your way, but I swear that I will only get stronger. The young Uchiha rubbed the back of his head, not used to people thanking him like that. Let's go back to my room. We can't stay crowded in the halls like that. Izuku exclaimed before he used his crutches to walk, and everyone followed him until they reached his room. Hey Midoriya, what was that attack you used to take out one of the Nomus? It was so manly. I even thought I saw a green dragon with an intense aura coming out of your leg. Kirishima excitedly said. Yeah, or that time when you woke up and mind-controlled the other Nomu to eliminate all the villains in the USJ? It was fucking awesome. Awaze cheered. Language, we're in a hospital. Itsuka sternly said. Sorry, Izuku smiled. That green dragon kick is my ultimate attack. I created this move thanks to Mori Sensei back at his Taekwondo dojo. It's a powerful attack that most people would likely fall unconscious after being hit by it. I used it and used my quirk at 100% and broke my right leg just like in the quirk apprehension test. That's so manly. Both Kirishima and Tetsu yelled before being smacked by Itsuka. No, it wasn't, you idiots. He hurt himself and broke his leg. She angrily said as she couldn't have these two cheering Izuku for breaking his leg. And how does your quirk break your leg? That's what happens whenever I use my full power. I break my bones. I broke my finger in the quirk apprehension test a few days ago when I used 100% of my quirk, and when you destroyed the 0-pointer in the entrance exam, you broke your legs and an arm. Ida added, to which Izuku nodded. Man, what's wrong with your quirk? Always breaking your bones like that. It's terrifying. Awaze commented. Tell me more about that kick. How did you create something like that? Ojiro asked. Well, 5 months before the UA entrance exam, triple kick, Izuku yelled as he tried to hit Mori with the new finisher he learned for him, only for Mori to block his attack with his leg and kick Izuku in his stomach, knocking him on the ground. Izuku groaned. I lost again. I couldn't even touch you, Mori Sensei. Midoriya, you sure did improve over the last 2 months. But after sparring with you many times, I've finally discovered your greatest weakness. Mori said in a serious tone. My greatest weakness? Yes, your problem is that you don't have an identity, Mori pointed out. Once you figure out what I mean, you'll grow much stronger. And with that, he left the dojo, leaving Izuku all alone. What does he mean by my own identity? I'm Izuku Midoriya. But who is Izuku Midoriya? What does define Izuku Midoriya? What makes Izuku Midoriya? Izuku Midoriya? Izuku questioned as he looked at himself in a mirror. I'm going crazy, he yelled while Mori's cat looked at him with a sweat drop. He tried to think about what his master told him, but he couldn't find the answer. Midoriya, it's time for you to go home, Mori said as he entered his dojo, spotting Izuku, who has been thinking about his identity for an hour now. But I didn't find an answer yet. You're a smart boy, and I'm sure you'll figure out your problem. Yes, Mori Sensei, Izuku replied. Izuku left the dojo and began to think again. Why do I keep losing despite getting stronger? It doesn't make any sense. I learned every move he taught me. I mastered his fighting style, yet I'm still losing. However, Izuku's thoughts were interrupted by a villain's attack. He took out his notebook and prepared to take notes. Look, it's Kamui Woods, a bystander yelled as Kamui rushed to stop the villain's rampage. Kamui was able to easily stop the villain, Although what surprised Izuku was the fact that Kamui created a shield of wood to protect himself and the innocent people behind him before knocking him with the shield and changing its form to a net and capturing the villain. He grabbed his hero analysis journal and began to modify Kamui's stats. "That's a new move you got there, Kamui. Care to explain it?" A reporter asked. "Usually, I used to try to bind my opponents like Eraserhead to capture them, or fight them hand-to-hand before capturing them because I didn't turn with him back in the day. But lately, I decided to develop my own fighting style and forge my identity," Kamui said as he continued his explanation. However, one thing he said managed to catch Izuku's attention. His own fighting style? He forged his identity, Izuku said as he began to think about what Kamui said. "All this time I kept copying people's fighting style and never bothered to have my own. Of course, I kept losing against Morisensei. He knew all my movements. It was his fighting style after all. He knew how to counter every attack I threw at him. How could I have been so blind about this?" The next day, Izuku started to spar with Mori using a combination between his Muay Thai and Taekwondo moves, creating his own fighting style. "I see you figured out your problem, copycat," Mori said as he dodged a punch from Izuku. "Yeah, I thought about what you said, and I understood what you meant by having my own identity. You meant that I needed to have my own fighting style," Izuku said as he dodged a kick from Mori. He then stepped back a little before rushing at Mori with his full speed and jumped in the air. "Not bad, kid, but not good enough," Mori said as he thought that Izuku was going to use the triple kick once again, only for Izuku to move differently and aim at Mori's face. As Izuku was finally going to land the kick, Mori used his forearm to block Izuku's attack before landing a kick to Izuku's chest. He looked at his own forearm. It was numb, which shocked him. "Good job, Midoriya. You forced me to use my arm, which is something that I rarely do." Mori praised Izuku and laughed. Izuku smiled at the praise. "It was thanks to your guidance that I was able to improve and get rid of my weakness." "Well, it couldn't be helped, considering that your quirk lets you copy other people's fighting style," Mori pointed out, which made Izuku flinch. "Wait, you knew?" Izuku asked in surprise. "Midoriya, it's too obvious when you think about it. After sparring with you so many times, I realized that something was wrong. It was like I was fighting a clone. You moved exactly like me after training with me for nearly 2 months, which wasn't normal by any means." "I'm sorry," Izuku said as he looked down, feeling ashamed. "You don't have to apologize at all, Midoriya. After all, you're using every resource you have to grow stronger, and nothing is wrong with that. By the way, that last attack you used, it was amazing. It could be your ultimate attack in the future. It still needs some work, but I'll help you develop it," Mori said with a smile. "Really? Thank you so much, Morisensei," Izuku replied as Mori rubbed his head. "Back to present. And that's how the Green Dragon Ultra Kick was created," Izuku finished. "Wait, so all this time you were just copying our fighting styles?" Ojiro asked in shock. "Well, yes, but not all the time. It was just to strengthen my quirk and to get stronger faster. After all, compared to you who trained for years, I only had 10 months," Izuku said as he smiled sheepishly. "Well, I guess it's fair," Ojiro replied. "That Green Dragon Ultra Kick is so amazing, and your sensei seems to be so manly," Kirishima exclaimed. "He is. In fact, I never got a full hit on him, even with my Sharingan activated," Izuku pointed out. "Wow, you're kidding me. He must be strong as hell," Awase said, voicing everyone's thoughts. Izuku, who seemed to be pretty much invincible to them, never got a full hit on some old man even with his quirk activated. Although they didn't know that he didn't have one for all at that time. "Deku, tell us about your quirk awakening," Achiko demanded. "Quirk awakening?" Momo questioned, while the others also had a curious look on their faces. Izuku activated his Sharingan to make explaining things easier for his classmates. "I used to have one of these things in my right eye," Izuku said as he pointed to his tomos. "Now I have 2 just like my left eye. This gave me the ability to cast illusions and even mind control beasts like the Nomu at the USJ. I swear, Midoriya, your quirk is truly amazing. It's like you have multiple quirks," Denki pointed out. "To imagine that you're even stronger than before is just both amazing and terrifying. It's like your power has no limits," Awase added. "Thank you," but I think that all of you have amazing quirks as well. So, tell me, what have you guys been doing at UA? Izuku asked. We're all going to move into the UA dorms. The sports festival has been postponed and Aizawa gave every one of us a unique training program to prepare for it. Except for you because you're recovering. I know about the sports festival, but the dorm thing sounds exciting. Izuku commented. Yeah, we're going to all live together. Isn't that amazing? Mina cheered while everyone got excited. We can all have pillow fights, Denki yelled, and watch movies together. Zero shouted. Living together with girls. UA is truly the best hero course. Mineta shouted, but was immediately smacked by Azui, before Ibra used her vines to hang him upside down, causing everyone in the room to laugh at him. If we put a good show at the sports festivals, the pro heroes will surely scout us. Zero pointed out. We only have 3 chances, so we can't afford to miss this. Tokoyami said, oh dear, what will I do? I stand out just by standing still, so the scouts won't be able to stop looking at me, right? Aoyama said, but everyone ignored him instead. Deku, Ida, let's do our best at the sports festival. Achiko said with an intense expression and a menacing aura around her. Rarika, your face. It's... Izuku exclaimed, as both he and Tenya were shocked by Achiko's sudden mood change. What's wrong? You don't look carefree at all, even though that's what your name means. Mina said, as Achiko's new attitude terrified everyone around her. Everyone, I'm gonna do my best. Achiko cheered, but there was no response. I said, I'm gonna do my best. Achiko repeated, and everyone decided to cheer this time. They definitely didn't want to mess with Achiko right now. Midoriya, Bakugo's coming for you, Kirishima pointed out as silence filled the room. Of course, he wouldn't be Kakin if he didn't, but I won't lose that easily, so he better prepares himself. Izuku replied, to be honest with you, he's not the only one. Kirishima added, causing Izuku to blink in surprise. You might be the strongest one right now, but I'm going to train hard enough and beat you at the sports festival. Don't forget about me too. I won't lose to any of you without a fight. Tetsu added with a burning determination. Midoriya, you better ready yourself because you won't win our rematch. Ojiro said with a confident smile. I will do my best to win and bring honor to the Ida family too. Midoriya, you're one of the people I want to face in the sports festival. Tenya exclaimed as he moved his arms in a robotic fashion. This statement isn't only for Midoriya. All of us have to do our best. Kirishima cheered. And we girls don't intend to let you guys hang in the spotlight by yourselves. Itsuka said as all the girls behind her were also determined to prove themselves. Izuku watched everyone and heard what they wanted to say. And one thing for sure, everyone was out there to get him. Everyone wanted to be the number 1. Then all of you better train and do your best because I'm not planning to lose in the sports festival. He activated his Sharingan and looked at everyone with determination in his eyes. Outside his room, Izuku's mother was so happy that Izuku had so many friends now. She knew that when Izuku was quirkless, he didn't have any friends despite how hard he tried to hide it. She couldn't help but tear up after watching her son surrounded by many people who genuinely love him as a friend. A true friend. Meanwhile, a blonde ash-haired boy, wearing his black hoodie, was smirking as he was leaving. So, you finally woke up. Good, because I will get first place at Sports Festival Deku. I'll do it, but not before I crush you, he said while walking away. That night, Izuku was soundly sleeping in the hospital's room. He was really happy that his friends visited him today. He also talked with his mom about the UA dorm system, and she agreed to let him go. However, he suddenly woke up as he heard the sound of the door opening. He kept his eyes closed as he heard a person coming closer, and the person seemed to be giggling. Izuku felt an ill intent getting closer and closer. Someone was planning to attack him. Was it the League of Villains? Did they come after him because Shigaraki deemed him as a threat? He shot up and managed to grab a hand, holding a knife that was pointed at him, his Sharingan activated. Who are you and what do you want? He asked. I want you, Izuku. You're so cute that I couldn't help but imagine how much cuter you would be if you bleed. A strange feminine voice, yet psychopathic, said before she grabbed another knife to stab Izuku. Stop! he shouted as he elbowed her, causing the girl to fall on her butt. He turned on the lights and saw a relatively petite, fair-skinned girl, blushing with a pretty face. She had slightly inward-tilting eyes, irises bright yellow and their pupils thin slits, making them somewhat resemble those of a cat, and her wide mouth was also rather feline, as both her upper and lower canines are more pointed and longer than the rest of her teeth. Her hair was a pale, dirty ash blonde and was styled into two messy buns, numerous wild strands sticking out at all angles from their centers and where they're fastened, a straight fringe and two chin-length side bangs to frame her face. She was also wearing a middle school uniform. He looked at her eyes and immediately saw different flashbacks. "Why can't you be normal like the other girls?" A man yelled at a small little girl who was crying. "Hey, do you know that Toga has a blood quirk?" A girl said. "EW, that's so disgusting. She will surely become a villain in the future." Another girl replied. He then saw a little girl being hit by a couple of boys with their flashy quirks and calling her a villain. "You're not my daughter, you're a monster," a woman said to a girl who was crying. Izuku noticed that she strongly resembled his attacker. Izuku finally snapped out of his trance, confused by what he just saw. What was that? What did I just see? Is this another power of the Sharingan? Did you see that? What did you do to me? The girl asked with visible tears in her eyes, stepping back from Izuku. Izuku began to put two and two together and deduced what he saw must have been her memories. "Yes, I saw that." He looked at her with a sad expression. The girl looked at Izuku darkly and immediately decided to run away since she had failed to kill Izuku. "Wait!" Izuku saw her running and decided to stop her. "I'm like you," he said, reaching out with his hand although he couldn't really move from his bed. The girl stopped in her tracks after hearing what Izuku just said. "How? How can you be like me? How can you understand my pain?" she exclaimed as her eyes were teary. "How about we talk about it?" he asked, but the girl wasn't interested and was ready to leave. Izuku had deduced from the flashbacks he saw that the girl liked blood. "If we talk about it, I could give you some of my blood," he offered. The girl didn't really want to talk about anything, but she hasn't drunk any blood for the last 3 days. She was desperate and really wanted some blood so badly, so she decided to take a seat. "Fine, but I'll be the one asking question, Izuku Midoriya." "That's fine by me. But how do you know my name?" he asked. "I said I'm the one asking questions." "Okay," he replied with a sweat drop. "What did you mean when you said you're like me?" she asked him. "I meant that my past is similar to yours. Too was bullied too and I didn't have any friends, all for the fact that I was quirkless, so people saw me as useless," Izuku said with a sad expression on his face. Usually he didn't like talking about his past, but for some reason he did. Was it because he saw how similar their pasts are? "To remember once when I went to a park, the kids ganged up on me and they broke my leg and left me with a bloody face. People just passed by and no one cared. No one tried to help me. Even at the hospital, they had to discharge me early before I fully recover because one kid with a quirk bruised his knee, so they needed the bed." What was he saying? He never told that story to anyone except for All Might. But even All Might didn't get to hear the full story. What I'm trying to tell you is that I understand your pain. I truly did. Himiko was completely shocked by his story, and for a moment there was only silence. She didn't know what to say because she never thought she would ever meet someone like her. How? How didn't you give up on everything? How didn't you fall down the dark path?" she asked as she realized how she and Izuku had a lot in common. After hearing his story, she was really interested in how he controlled his own fate. "Because despite everything, I didn't let go of my dream to become a hero at least. I've tried my hardest. Then one day, I finally got a quirk and managed to get to UA. And that was because someone told me that I can become a hero. He was the only one to believe in me. At least you have a quirk now and a hero quirk to top on that. I'm not like you. I was born with this quirk to become a villain, to not be normal. I don't believe that it's the quirks that define us. You are the one who control your quirk. You're the one who decide whether or not to use it for good or evil. Long ago, people didn't have quirks, yet there were always good and bad people. But But my quirk lets me drink other people's blood to use it, and I can't help it. If I use 100% of my full power, I could kill someone. But I'm the one who controls my quirk. I control it and use it for good. Anyways, what's your quirk exactly? My quirk is called transform. By sucking people's blood, I can transform into them, she said while thinking that Isuku must be disgusted by her right now, only to see him grab a journal and write something in it with the speed of light. Oh, this quirk is amazing. It would be very useful for stealth operations, interrogations, cover-up operations, spying. But how does it work? Does how much blood she ingests affects the transformation time? Or does the time limit depend on the blood type? And if she drank multiple people's blood, will she be able to change from one person to another? Isuku kept muttering non-stop that even the author was no longer able to understand what was he saying. What is wrong with him? Himiko questioned, as she was weirded out by Izuku's muttering. Hello, Earth to Isuku, she said as she waved her hand in front of his face, snapping him out of his trance. Oh, sorry about that. Izuku smiled sheepishly and rubbed the back of his head. I tend to do that a lot. Hey look, I wrote a few pages about your quirk, Isuku exclaimed as he handed his hero analysis journal to the girl. However, as she was reading, something grabbed her attention. Music. You can become a hero. Wait a second, hero analysis journal? Do you really think that a quirk like mine could be a hero's quirk? Yes, why not? Your quirk is wonderful, Isuku bluntly replied, but the girl's reaction was something he didn't expect. She dropped her knives and started to cry and sob. It was only a few more seconds until it hit him. He looked at the girl and remembered when All Might told him he could become a hero. He cried so hard too, just like her. He deduced that this girl was also waiting for someone to tell her that her quirk was amazing, that it wasn't a villain's quirk, that she's the one who had control over her fate and not her quirk like she thought. This opened Izuku's eyes on something he never thought about. This society is wrong. Isuku gave the girl a few minutes to calm down before he asked, So, what's your name? My name is Himiko Toga, but please call me Himiko. Himiko replied as she took back her seat. Okay, Himiko. And how do you know so much about me? I was stalking you since you've arrived at the hospital. You smelled like blood and I like blood. Right, yeah, totally normal, he said as he smiled sheepishly. So, for how long have you been away from your home? A couple of months now. I ran away the day of my middle school's graduation ceremony. Izuku was a bit surprised of her sudden mood changes. While the girl was at first crazy and psychopathic, she was now calm and rational, but he shrugged it off. Did you ever kill anyone? Even if he sympathizes with the girl, he would have to report her if she was a murderer. Himiko was taken back a little by the question, but she decided to answer truthfully. I never killed anyone, but I was planning to kill you today after drinking your blood. I also hurt a few people, cut them and drank their blood. Then it's a good thing that I was supposed to be your first kill. I can turn a blind eye to the whole cutting people and drinking their blood thing, but you have to promise me to change and to stop being a villain. Izuku knew that what he was doing was essentially wrong, but he was truly conflicted. On one hand, Himiko was just a girl his age, torn by nowadays society and needed help like he once did. On the other hand, she was a villainess who already hurt a few people. He knew that his job was to save people, but what about villains? Maybe some of them needed someone to save them. He was truly lost and confused about the matter, but something in his heart screamed at him to help her. He wanted to know more about her past, but he knew it was a bad topic to talk about right now. Izuku, Himiko called him, snapping him out of his train of thoughts. Yes, your blood. You said I could drink some if we talked, Himiko said, blushing while doing so. Eh? Izuku said with a shocked expression on his face. He totally forgot about their deal after she started crying. He only offered his blood at that moment because it was the only thing he could have done to get her attention. However, Isuku wasn't someone who would go back on his word. Yeah, sure. Why, you could have some. Just don't take too much, please. Himiko giggled and jumped in her place in excitement. She grabbed him in a hug and bit his neck, finally drinking his blood. She kept sucking for a minute or so before she stopped and let go of Izuku. Izuku felt a bit drained, but he shrugged it off, Can you show me your quirk? He asked, now excited to watch her transform. She nodded before her body started to change, with her hair becoming green. Her eyes became emerald, freckles appeared on her face, and her body changed into one of a teenage boy. Izuku was surprised when her transformation was completed. It was as if he's looking in a mirror. And now I'm you, Himiko said, as even her voice was exactly like Izuku's, which shocked him even more. How long can you stay like that? Izuku asked. A few hours. I ingested a good amount, so I should be able to stay like this until morning. Izuku grabbed his journal, modifying some information on Himiko's quirk. "Two told you your quirk is wonderful." Himiko smiled. "I have to go now, but I'll see you again, Izuku." She then exited the room and left Izuku all by himself in his room. Izuku yawned before going back to sleep. This was surely one of the weirdest moments of his life. He felt bad for not asking her if she had a place to sleep, but Izuku thought that he can offer her one the next time they meet. The next morning, Izuku finally woke up. The sunlight coming through his window confirmed that it was morning. "I had a weird dream yesterday," he said, as he thought about yesterday's events. He lifted the covers and his eyes widened as he saw a naked Himiko sleeping beside him. Hi, Himiko?" He called her name in shock as his face was completely red. "What happened last night?" he screamed in his head. Himiko let out a yawn before she sat up and looked at Izuku. "Good morning, Izuku. Did you enjoy last night?" she asked with a blush and a smile on her face. Izuku's face started to heat up, and steam started to come out of his ears. The boy started to mutter at the speed of light and scream in panic at the possibilities of what could have happened last night. "Well, I was too tired to go anywhere after yesterday, so I decided to crash here," Himiko explained as she grabbed her clothes. Izuku covered his eyes and sighed. How do I find myself into these situations? Can't I have just one normal day?" "The plot," Himiko responded. "I know a place where you can live from now on," Izuku pointed out. "Really? Where is it?" she asked in excitement. "I'm going to live in the UA dorms starting from next week, so you could live in my house. However, you have to promise me to behave because my mom lives there too." "Boring. I want to be with you. I can visit you after school if you want." She smiled in excitement. "And can I drink your blood too?" Izuku figured that her drinking his blood would be better than her drinking anyone else's blood or his mother's, so he decided to take this responsibility upon himself. "Yeah, from now on, you're going to drink my blood only. No drinking other people's blood." She smiled happily at him. Yes, I'm fine with that." Chapter 15. The Sports Festival. For days later, Izuku was finally discharged from the hospital. His whole body was healed except for his right leg, and so he still had his crutches to support him. Meanwhile, all of the UA students moved to the dorms and started to train for the upcoming sports festival. As for Izuku, he decided to move into the dorms as well and was now heading there, leaving his old room for Himiko. Fortunately, he was able to convince his mom, after explaining to her how hard Himiko's situation is, without mentioning her being a criminal or that she sucks his blood every day to satisfy her urges. "Toga, please don't forget to behave well and to not do anything suspicious while I'm gone," Izuku said, as he was standing in front of the UA High School's gates. "Izuku, I think I already told you to call me Himiko, right?" Himiko said, while staring darkly at Izuku and pulling her knife, placing it at his throat. Why's Himiko?" Izuku said nervously. Himiko smiled and put her knife away, as she regained her cheerful tone once again. "That's more like it, and don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble, Izuku. Also, your mom is in good hands." During the past few days, Himiko completely stopped committing crimes. The reason was that she was actually confused by the recent events that happened. She always thought that she had to choose between two paths: living the so-called normal way, the way that her parents tried to force on her, or becoming a villain and live freely. However, meeting Izuku opened a lot of new doors. He was different from everyone. The guy was totally okay with her drinking his blood and praised her quirk, something she never thought would ever happen. Izuku Midoriya was a mystery to Himiko, a mystery that she was willing to solve. "I'll come back at dinner time so that you can suck my blood. So see you later, Himiko," Izuku exclaimed as he entered the gates. Once he entered the dorms, he was very surprised to see the students from Class 1A and 1B quietly sitting in the common area and staring at him. "Hey, you. What's wrong, guys?" he asked. "Dude, you have to hide." Kaminari broke the silence but was very quickly cut off. "Izuku Midoriya. How dare you trick us to get yourself in danger, you idiot. Using an illusion on Aizawa-sensei and tricking us all to fight the Nomu. You won't get away with this easily." Itsuka yelled at him, her voice sending shivers down everyone's spines. "Itsuka, I'm really sorry. I promise I won't do anything like that again. All right?" Izuku said, with a little bit of fear in his voice as he shrieked. Who knew that Itsuka could be this terrifying when she's mad? Sorry. Isn't going to cut it? You didn't only get yourself in danger, but you used your quirk on your teacher and broke the rules. For God's sake, they may expel you for all we know," Isuka exclaimed. "Expel?" Izuku asked, with visible fear and shock in his voice. "Midoriya, while I agree that saving All Might was very heroic back then, but breaking the rules and using your quirk on your teacher is a big mistake. I mean, you even did it in the first place to disobey his orders, so there's that too. That is not how a UA student should behave. I just hope you won't get into any trouble," Ida added while moving his hand in a chop motion. Izuku was a bit shaken by this, but he didn't regret what he did. He saved his friends and teachers, and this is what matters. "I'll accept any punishment they'll give me, but I don't regret anything," Izuku said, gaining his confidence back and looking determined, only to lose it shortly after. "What do you mean by not regretting anything? You must be the most stupid person I have ever met. Have you listened to what we have just told you?" Itsuka kept shouting while everyone kept laughing. "Well, I think that Itsuka is the strongest person here, given that even Midoriya, the one who scared all the villains, is scared of her." Ant amused. "Well, you would have been expelled if the circumstances were different," Aizawa said in his usual monotone voice as he entered the accommodation. He was followed by Vlad King. "Aizawa-sensei, you're okay, ow," Izuku exclaimed, but was cut off in the middle by Aizawa, who gave him a chop on his head. "Worry about yourself before worrying about your teacher, kid. I swear you're giving me so much trouble," Aizawa said, while Nizu appeared from behind him. "What do you mean by different circumstances, Aizawa-sensei?" Achiko asked. "Izuku Midoriya, while you broke the rules and used your quirk on your teacher to disobey his orders and endanger yourself and gave us so much trouble, we apologize. It's because of our lack in our security measurements that you were injured so badly," Nizu said as he bowed. "And no, please raise your head, Mr. Principal. It's my fault in the first place that I got these injuries. I'm the one who pushed myself way too far," Izuku explained while waving his hands. He was embarrassed that the principal himself was apologizing to him and bowing. "No, Midoriya, it's because that you pushed yourself too far that you saved your fellow classmates and teachers. It's because of you that everyone is safe and sound now. It's thanks to you that we avoided the worst-case scenario. So, for that you have my thanks as well," Nizu said, and finally lifted up his head. "You may request anything you want and the school will help you with it," Nizu added. Izuku looked at Aizawa, not knowing what to say before Aizawa said, "If it was up to me, I would have punished you, but you saved my life, and for that I thank you. Also, seems like Kendo here will give you your punishment in my stead." "Yeah, I won't let him off the hook that easily," Itsuka exclaimed, still annoyed by her crush's acts. Izuku then looked at Vlad, who said, "You're a hero, kid, and you deserve this. In my whole teaching career, I've never seen a student as heroic as you, and I can see why everyone has their eyes on you." Izuku thought about what he wanted carefully for a moment before grabbing his notebook and opening the page where he drew his hero costume. "I want this symbol to be embedded on my PE uniform during the sports festival," Izuku said. Over the last couple of days, he adopted the idea of being an Uchiha and accepted his heritage. He wanted to show the world the power of the Uchihas, who they forgot about, but most importantly, he wanted to say something to everyone in the school, to the League of Villains, to the whole world. He wanted to say, "I'm here." "Is that all?" Nizu asked. He didn't expect that Izuku will ask for such an easy request. "Yes, sir," Izuku replied with a smile. Nizu smiled. "You chose a fine successor, Yagi. Nizu thought before looking at the two classes and saying, "All of you did pretty well during the USJ attacks, and I have no doubt that you'll become outstanding heroes. You may be surprised that we grouped everyone together from Class A and B in the same dorm, but we wanted both classes to get to know each other more, and I'm sure that the USJ incident made you all get closer to each other. So, we hope you grow stronger together as future heroes and make us proud one day." While everyone was getting hyped and excited about all of them being together in the same dorm, Izuku was getting worried since this meant he had no escape from Itsuka's wrath. In fact, just as the teachers were leaving, Izuku looked in fear at Isuka, who was staring daggers at him. "Izuku," Itsuka plainly said, sending more fear in Izuku's heart. But before anything could happen, Izuku's phone started to ring. When Izuku looked at who was calling him, he was happy to see that it was his mother. She probably wanted to check up on him and to ask him if the school staff moved his things to his room, since he was injured. "Lucky," Izuku thought as he grinned and waved at Itsuka, who looked annoyed. "Damn it! When did he get so cocky?" Itsuka questioned, with a frown on her face. "So, what's the first thing we should do today? The intense training doesn't start until tomorrow," Denki asked. "Oh, I know. Let's have a movie night today," Mina said with a cheerful tone. "That's a great idea," Hanta responded. "Humph, idiots," Bakugo said as he went to his room. "Let's just ignore him and get the popcorns ready," Mina said. The students began to prepare popcorns and drinks before they went on choosing a movie. Izuku, however, decided to pack everything properly. He had to place these All Might actions figures and posters after all. The next day, Izuku woke up smelling something delicious. Someone is a good chef, he thought, but as he went downstairs, he found that the good chef was an angry Bakugo. "Good morning, Kaken," Izuku said with a smile. "Don't talk to me, you fucking nerd. You hear me? Here, eat this," Bakugo yelled as he handed him his plate. "Thank you, I guess," Izuku responded. "Don't you fucking thank me, DKU," Bakugo replied. "Oh, Bakugo, you're making breakfast for everyone?" Denki asked in a cheerful voice, thinking that Bakugo was actually a nice guy, but was just hiding his true personality all along. "Of course not, Pikachu. I'm only doing it for fucking DKU and myself, because he's injured so he can't make a decent meal for himself, and if he doesn't eat properly, he won't be at his best during the sports festival. I need him to be at his best when I crush him or I won't approve of it," Bakugo shouted. "Wow, you're really dedicated," Denki replied. "And so manly," Kirishima added with tears in his eyes. "And annoying. For God's sake, it's 7 in the morning," Ibara exclaimed with a frown. "Good morning, everyone. What's this delicious smell?" Hanta asked. "You can't have any. You hear that weird face?" Bakugo growled from his seat. "Of course, I don't have a death wish," Hanta replied, nervously. "And you, fucking nerd, you better eat all of your food," Bakugo ordered. "I will, Kaken, I promise," Izuku replied. He was a little bit worried right now. He didn't really know who was scarier, an overprotective Bakugo or an overprotective Itsuka. A few moments later, everyone woke up, got ready, and started heading to school. But they all gasped in shock when they saw Izuku using his crutches to walk, while Bakugo was holding both his and Izuku's bag. The reason being that Bakugo wanted Izuku to heal properly and to not strain himself. "Kaken, I can hold." "Shut the fuck up, DKU, right?" Izuku replied. Later, when they went into the class, Izuku was about to sit in his place only to be stopped by Bakugo. "Rest your fucking leg on that chair," Bakugo shouted. "Kaken, did you take someone else's chair?" Izuku asked, feeling a bit weird about this whole new Bakugo. "You got a problem with that DKU?" Bakugo asked, as explosions started to ignite in his hands. "No at all," Izuku immediately replied, as he sat in his chair and placed his injured leg on the other chair, finally surrendering and deciding that it would be best to obey Bakugo. "Hey, that's my chair," Mineta shouted, annoyed that his chair was stolen. "What the fuck did you just say, you fucking midget?" Katsuki questioned, with a menacing look on his face. "I was just saying how it would be a good idea to try to sit on the desk today," Mineta replied, not wanting to go against Bakugo. When Aizawa entered the class, he saw everyone sitting in their seats except Mineta, who was sitting on his desk. he decided to ignore the matter and start the class. He was too tired to know what happened to Mineta's chair. Lunchtime, you better stay fucking put DKU. I'll be back with your shitty lunch in a few minutes, Bakugo exclaimed, and Izuku decided to comply. You sure have it hard today with Bakugo acting like your mom, Achiko said with a chuckle. She found the whole situation so funny. At least it's better than how he usually acts. Tenya added, You think? Ojiro questioned. Hey guys, you're all here. Itsuka exclaimed as she entered Class 1A's homeroom. Yeah, we were just waiting for Bakugo to come back with Izuka's launch. Then we were planning to go to the cafeteria. Tenya replied, He's still acting like your babysitter? Itsuka asked. Yeah. Izuku replied as he smiled sheepishly. It's so funny, Achiko said as she started laughing. I agree, Ojiro replied as he smiled. Uraraka, Izuku called the brunette. Yes, why did you decide to come to UA and become a pro hero? I know why the others did, but what about you? Izuku asked, which made Achiko get embarrassed because it was a sensitive subject. Huh? Because... For money, she replied. For money? You want to become a hero for money? Izuku asked, quite shocked by the answer. To boil it down simply, yes. Sorry, it's such an unwholesome reason. You guys have such admirable motivations. It's embarrassing, she said, as she tried to avoid looking at the other from the embarrassment. Why? How is having a goal to support your livelihood not admirable? Tenya tried to reason with her and convince her that there's nothing to be ashamed about. Yeah, it's just how can I say it? Unexpected. Itsuka added, My family owns a construction company, but we haven't gotten any work at all, so we're flat broke. This isn't really something to tell other people, though. Achiko explained, You have our word that our lips are sealed. Ojiro said, Construction. Tenya said, with his hand on his chin thinking about something. With her quirk, if she gets licensed then it'd bring costs way down, right? Izuku deduced. She could make any raw material float. They wouldn't need any heavy equipment. Tenya added, right? That's what I told Dad when I was a little. But he refused. He wanted me to chase my own dreams. Achiko replied, before clenching her fists and adding, I'll definitely become a hero and make money and let my parents take it easy. Bravo! Uraraka, bravo! Bravo! Tenya shouted as he clapped his hands, while everyone else just smiled at her. There's no reason to be ashamed of that goal, Uraraka, Izuku pointed out. She's not just aspiring to be a hero. She's also taken reality into consideration. Izuku thought, Ha ha ha, young Midoriya is here, All Might said, as he made a dramatic entrance. All Might? What's the matter? Izuku asked. Lunch. Want to eat together? All Might asked, which made both Itsuka and Achiko burst into laughter. He's like a maiden, they yelled in unison. How about it? Izuku looked at his friends for a moment before they gave him a nod. While he knew that he would get in trouble later with Bakugo, he decided to go. I'd love to, he answered, as he stood up, took his crutches and followed his mentor. I wonder what he wanted with Deku? Shako asked. Well, I'm sure he wanted to thank him for saving his life during the USJ incident. If it wasn't for Midoriya's bravery and power, who knows what could have happened? Tenya replied, I see. That makes sense. Achiko said. Also, remember what Azui said on the bus? Ojiro added, Your quirk is like All Might's. The boundless power they both have are similar too, so maybe All Might has taken a liking to him. He's amazing. Tenya deduced. To be honest, it feels like Deku is the All Might of our generation. Achiko added with a smile. She was happy to have a strong classmate like Izuku, and she really admired him. Yeah, not to mention that his quirk gives him so many abilities. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's one quirk. Itsuka exclaimed, wondering if Izuku really had just one quirk. Yes, Deku is amazing. He has enhanced perception, speed, physical strength, and can cast illusions and mind control. He's really strong. Achiko cheered for a reason that she couldn't understand. Unbeknown to them, though, a certain red and white hair teen was listening to their conversation. All Might and Izuku Midoriya, he thought. Teacher's lounge. First of all, how's your leg, young Midoriya? All Might, who was currently in his weaker form, asked. It's much better. I'll be able to walk again on my own soon. Izuku replied. Good. But you have to know that this is only the beginning of your journey. What do you mean? All Might sighed. It was a bit hard coming to terms with the fact that his days as a pro hero were numbered. My time limit has decreased to about 50 minutes. About 50 minutes? Izuku repeated in shock. All Might was no longer able to do hero work for even an hour. Yeah, that's the limit to how long I can use my power now. I overdid it too many times. That Nomu was also a tough opponent. And it hurts. I can just barely maintain muscle form for 1.5 hours now. All Might said, as he poured some tea for both of them. About that, sore Izuku was about to apologize, feeling responsible about All Might becoming weaker, but the older man quickly interrupted him with a burst of laugh. You don't have to apologize. Man, we really are alike, you and me. Have some tea. Thanks. More importantly, about the sports festival. You still can only control 8% of one for all, right? What will you do? All Might asked. I have a few ideas, but I don't really know if they'll work. Not without testing them out first anyways. Izuku replied. Have you ever, used the lightning of one for all as a power and fired it on someone? Izuku asked. All Might gained a puzzled look on his face after hearing what Izuku said. Young Midoriya, are you sure your brain was 100% healed? Because my power enhances someone's strength and speed, as you know. Oh yeah, right? Of course I know, what a crazy idea. It's just that I had a dream about something similar today, and I wanted to ask if it was possible. Izuku answered back while smiling sheepishly. Right? What about your Sharingan? I mean, I know it has evolved to the next level, but how is it? All Might questioned the green-haired teen. Well, honestly, I need to use it during combat to actually see how much it did improve. Well, I can offer you some training before the sports festival. It's time for you and I to have some sparring and see how strong you are. We need to make sure you're at your full power before the festival. Really? Sparring with you, All Might? I mean, it's a great honor, Izuku said, as he started to enter his fanboy mode. Now calm down, you're still injured, and we don't want to upset Recovery Girl. All Might said, as both he and Midoriya flinched as they pictured an angry Recovery Girl. Frankly, I don't have much time left as the symbol of peace. All Might pointed out, and Izuku couldn't help but frown. He was sad. All Might was his idol, his favorite hero, and knowing that All Might was going to retire soon just saddened him. No way, and some of those with built-up villainous intent are starting to realize. I granted you my power because I want you to succeed me. You still feel the same as you did back then, don't you? Back then, when you told me you want to become the greatest hero and save people with a smile. All Might questioned the boy's dream and resolution once again. Of course. Even now, my feelings haven't changed. Izuku replied once again with the same determined eyes he had back then. Then, the time has come for you to show that. The UA Sports Festival is something pro heroes know. The whole country is watching closely. A big event. That is what I brought you here to talk about. The next All Might, the fledgling symbol of peace, Izuku Midoriya. I want you to tell the world I am here, All Might said with intensity in his eyes. Izuku paused for a second, letting All Might's words sink in. This was yet another big step in his journey in order to become the #1 hero. He had to prove himself in front of everyone. He had to make people acknowledge him, something that he never had the chance to do when he was quirkless, but now with One for All and the Sharingan, he has the chance to deliver the message he has been trying to deliver ever since he was a kid. That he can become a hero, and not just any hero, the best hero. But still, he knew that it was easier said than done. It's true that I won't have the same chances of winning as everyone else since I won't properly train. But the odds have always been against me, so it's nothing new. I'll get first place and show everyone that I, Izuku Midoriya, am the next symbol of peace. All Might could only smirk and feel proud after hearing his successor's words. That night, Izuku, you're here. Himiko cheered as she giggled. Hey Himiko, I got a favor to ask of you. Izuku pointed out. What is it? Himiko asked. I want to train and I need a sparring partner. Izuku replied. So you're finally ready to do it. Oh Izuku, who knew that you had this bad side in you? You could have at least waited until you healed, Himiko said, as her cheeks got red, and with naughty images appearing in her mind. I just wanted to use my Sharingan on you and cast illusions. Is that not okay with you? Izuku asked, completely oblivious about what Himiko meant. Himiko could only facepalm as she heard his answer. Yes, that's fine, as long as you don't peek at my past like last time. Her past was still a sensitive subject she liked to avoid it. Thanks, you're the best, Izuku said, as Himiko blushed at the comment. Why are you training anyway? She asked out of curiosity. Well, the UA Sports Festival is coming, and I wanted to train a bit, so that I don't fall back behind my classmates, Izuku exclaimed. The sports festival. I used to watch it back when I was a kid. You're competing in something like that. That's so awesome. I have to come and cheer you, Himiko said with her cheerful tone. Thanks, Himiko. This means a lot to me, Izuku replied. While it was fairly dangerous to bring Himiko to a big event such as the sports festival, what were the odds that someone from the government or the police would recognize her? Izuku then sat and activated his Sharingan. He then looked in Himiko's eyes and began to cast illusions. Wait, why are we back at the hospital? Himiko asked. We're not silly. That's just an illusion, Izuku replied before disappearing. Wait, Izuku. Where did you go? She asked. That's the game we're playing hide and seek, and I'm hiding, Izuku replied. That's not fair, she pointed out. She was trapped in his illusion for a few minutes, unable to feel anything happening in the outside world, until Izuku flicked her nose, snapping her back to reality. Did you enjoy your trip? Izuku asked. Of course not. How's going to the hospital a trip? She said with clear annoyance in her voice. Sorry, that was the only illusion I could think of back then. I'm still a beginner, and that's why I need more practice, Izuku said as he smiled sheepishly. If you want to apologize, then take me to the arcade, Himiko said, with her arms crossed and looking at the other side. All right, I promise you to take you to the arcade after the sports festival. Can we resume my training now? Apology accepted, but don't leave me alone in those illusions of yours, she replied. You have my word, Izuku said, as he began to cast another genjutsu on Himiko. 20 minutes later, Izuku was tired, as casting genjutsus and maintaining them made him so tired. Himiko then jumped at him and hugged him before saying, It's time for my treat. You really don't hold back, Izuku said, as he was a bit embarrassed when she had to hug him every time and jump in his arms. However, he really felt sorry for Himiko and what she had gone through. Deep inside of him, he just knew that he had to protect her. 2 weeks later, the UA Sports Festival is in 1 week. It'll be broadcast live on TV too. There's no doubt that those who do well have a much better chance of becoming pro heroes. We won't know what events we'll be participating in until the day of, but I'm sure everyone has started getting ready, Izuku thought, as all of his classmates were busy with their training. He would see Bakugo, returning home every night with his arms bruised, Ojiro with his whole body aching, and Todoroki with frostbites on his right side. Some people decided to train together, like Mina and Achiko, or Ojiro, Kirishima, and Tetsutisu, and from time to time in Ibara and Itsuka. However, Izuku didn't make much progress, even though he was much better at casting genjutsus and maintaining his Sharingan for longer periods of time. He hadn't improved his control of one for all or getting any combat training. He tried to sneak up once, but unfortunately for him, Itsuka caught him and dragged him back to his room. She always made sure to keep an eye on him and would have Achiko or Ibara take her place if she wasn't present. But today, I will finally be able to train. Who the hell am I kidding? I've fallen way back behind the others, he thought as he was currently going to Dogoba Beach. Young Midoriya, you're finally here. Are you ready to get you back to shape? All Might asked. Yes. I need to train and get stronger as soon as possible, Izuku said, as he immediately activated his Sharingan. Very well, come at me, All Might exclaimed. Izuku didn't hesitate for a second, as he rushed at All Might, with one for all full cowl activated and went for a punch to the face, only for All Might to punch him in the guts first, which made Izuku fall to the ground and clench his stomach. Ow, All Might! You don't pull back any punches, don't you? Izuku exclaimed, with a smirk on his face. Lowest round kick. he shouted as he tried to knock All Might off his feet, only for the latter to easily dodge it. He then grabbed Izuku by his shirt and threw him in the sea. "You'll have to do better than that, young Midoriya," All Might said as he approached Izuku. Izuku decided to be on defense this time, as All Might tried to land a punch, but Izuku managed to dodge it thanks to his new enhanced perception. He then kept dodging All Might's fists, waiting for an opening to attack, but All Might was not giving him the chance. "This is harder than I thought," he thought before he got an idea. All Might finally managed to land a punch to Izuku's face, before saying, "Come on, young Midoriya. A hero always finds a way to win. Remember, you need to prove yourself in the sports festival." "Yes, sir," Izuku replied with determination, before rushing at All Might once again. "Detroit Smash!" he yelled, only for All Might to easily dodge the blow and elbow him in his back. He tossed him around, and as Izuku finally stood up, he said, "Look carefully, young Midoriya. I'll show you what a real Detroit Smash looks like." Detroit Smash! All Might managed to land the punch in Izuku's gut, but to his surprise, Izuku was just standing still. "What the?" All Might said, before feeling the impact of a kick in his back. "Green Dragon Ultra Kick!" Izuku shouted as he landed his ultimate attack on All Might, which pushed the latter a couple of steps backwards. "Wait, how did you do that?" All Might asked. "You were trapped in an illusion, All Might," Izuku said as he laughed. "Since when?" "Since the barrage of fists that you were trying to land on me," Izuku replied, still laughing. All Might also laughed, before taking Izuku in a headlock. "Come here, you cheeky zygote. We'll call it your win this time." Izuku managed to somehow free himself from the headlock before replying, "But you're not even knocked down. Not to mention that you were holding back on me." Izuku clearly didn't want to win like this. "Ha ha ha, well, that's true. Maybe one day we'll have a proper match, and when you truly win, I'll be the happiest man alive. Now ready for another round?" All Might said, as he was proud of his successor. "Absolutely," Izuku replied, as he retook his fighting stance. For the rest of the week, Izuku kept training on getting back to shape, as well as spar with All Might, but each time he would lose, as he stood no chance against the current symbol of peace. Luckily for Izuku, with the intense training he did, it wasn't so long before he regained his full strength back. It's true that he hadn't got any stronger, except for the fact that his Sharingan evolved, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have some tricks up his sleeve for the sports festival. 1 week later, "Izuku, be careful not to get hurt," Inko said with worry, her mother instincts kicking in. "Okay," he replied. "I'll record it, okay? In high resolution," Inko exclaimed. "Okay," Izuku replied. "Do your best." Inko cheered her son. "Your mom and I will be cheering for you, Izuku." Himiko also cheered. Over the last 3 weeks she spent with Inko, she really liked the lady. She felt like Inko was the mother she never had. In fact, upon meeting Izuku, Himiko was so much happier now, and she met so many nice people. However, one question was always lurking in the back of her head. How will people react if they knew about her quirk? Will they accept her like Izuku or try to suppress her like her parents once did? "You heard your girlfriend," Inko bluntly said, which made both Izuku and Himiko blush. "Mom, she's not my girlfriend. She's only a friend," Izuku replied. "A friend," Himiko repeated with an emotionless face and blank expression. She had an urge to just kill Izuku and herself right now. She gave him so many signs that she liked him, yet he was still oblivious. While Himiko was busy in her thoughts, Izuku decided to ask his mother something important. "Hey Mom, do you think that Dad would be watching me?" he asked. "Of course, son, and I'm sure he would be proud of you," Inko replied. "Thanks, Mom. I'm off now," Izuku said, as he stepped out of the house waving goodbye to his mother, and a Himiko who was still in her trance. "UA High School. Man, I wanted to wear my costume," Mina said, still sad by the fact that they had to wear their PE uniforms. "To keep everything fair, we can't," Ojiro replied. "I wonder what the first round is gonna be," Sato exclaimed, as he was nervous. "No matter what comes, we have no choice but to deal with it," Fumikage replied. "Right?" Shoji agreed and gave a nod. "Everyone, are you ready? We will be entering soon," Tenya came to the locker room asking, "Midoriya." Todoroki called Izuku. Izuku looked at him and questioned, "Todoroki? What is it?" Both of them gaining the attention of the whole class. Looking at things objectively, I'm now stronger than you. But All Might has his eye on you, doesn't he? I'm not trying to pry about that. But I'm going to beat you, Todoroki replied, with a cold tone, filling the room with tension. Oh? Is the second best in class planning to finally take the top? Denki questioned with a sweat drop. Kirishima stood up immediately, afraid that something bad could happen. Hey, why are you picking a fight all of a sudden? Not now, we're about to start. We're not here to play at being friends. So what does it matter? Todoroki replied. Izuku waited to hear everything, before finally replying, Todoroki, I don't know what you're thinking when you say you'll beat me, but don't just assume that I'll lose easily. In fact, I'm planning on winning this whole sports festival. But you should also know that everyone, and I'm not talking about the students from the hero course only, they're all aiming for the top with everything they've got. I can't afford to lose today, not after coming this far, Izuku said, before activating his Sharingan, and looking at Todoroki, with confidence and determination written on his face. So, I'll also be going for the top with everything I got. Yeah, Todoroki coldly replied, while Bakugo was annoyed by the fact that he declared a war only to Izuku and not him. Izuku decided that now was a good time to drop this. And Todoroki. He called the red and white hair teen, who turned back once again to face him. Izuku turned his back to the whole class and pointed to the Uchiha symbol. I'll show you the true power of an Uchiha. What a wild ride, legends. Deku's Sharingan powers are evolving, and the story is only getting better. Thanks for hanging out and being the best community ever. I appreciate all of you for your incredible support. Remember, we're aiming for 100 likes to bring you the next part. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more epic anime what ifs. Huge thanks again to Mr. Author 18 for their amazing storytelling. Show them some love. Until next time, stay legendary.